Hot diggity damn, we are in Korea. Well, at least I am. I'm in a hotel. We're using hotel Wi-Fi. Who knows what's going to happen on this show? But Worlds is starting in just a couple hours. I'm going to go over there. For everybody else, you guys are getting ready to sleep. I'll be spoiling you on YouTube with all the interview titles. It's going to be great. It's Hotline League episode 48. We got Foxdrop here. All that and more coming right up. And this is normally whenever a sponsor thing would show, but it's a mystery sponsor. We don't have those assets yet. So just know that this show is sponsored by a mystery sponsor. Here we go. All right, so on the show tonight, first off, let me go ahead and introduce my co-host, Mark Zimmerman. How's it going, Mark?
Good. As you can probably guess by the fact that I'm doing the show right before Worlds starts, I'm not on the desk today.
Okay, but you will be on the desk in the future.
I will be on the desk in the coming days, but
Okay.
they're starting out with the heavy hitters
Okay.
from each region.
Very good. Well, excited to see you on the show, on the desk eventually. And I just want to say that I think that you are a heavy hitter, and I'm disappointed that Riot doesn't view you that way.
That was not their words, to be clear. That
they
was my own
said,
words.
sorry, you're not a heavy hitter. You can stay at home.
Mark, maybe if you had 100,000 Twitter followers, you would make it, but you don't.
Next up, and added just 30 minutes before the start of the broadcast because he came in a Twitch chat and was crying about it. Kelby May's on the show. How's it going, Kelby?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I'm glad that I could make a return the night before, or hours before, Peter plays.
Yes. Well, we'll be talking. It's going to be a very Peter episode. It's going to be basically Peter and then whatever Foxdrop says about Europe. So that's the show. Looking forward to it.
I assume caps.
Glad to have you here. But yeah, as always, Kelby here. Thank you. It's a special episode because we've only done this once before where we've had Kelby, but then we've also had a guest, and now we have Foxdrop. Welcome to the show, Foxdrop.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be up at 4 a.m. to talk League of Legends.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what time it is. Were you planning on being up at this time regardless?
Not really, but I am a YouTuber, so close to still being awake.
Okay.
But hey, it's all good. I'm only up like 2 hours later than I should be.
Yeah, but are you going to sleep before Worlds, or what happened? How are you handling this?
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Like, because World starts, it's been starting about, I think G2 played their series in the play-ins, in the knockout stages. It started like 4 a.m.
Jesus.
And that's the gamer's sweet spot where you've just gone to bed and you certainly ain't going to be getting up at 4 a.m.
Oh my god, yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of a struggle.
I
So,
appreciate
don't know.
your dedication though, man. I can tell you're hardcore, dude, and I respect that to a massive degree.
I'm trying. I'm absolutely trying. But I'll tell you, VODs are very helpful during this stage of work.
See, I hate watching VODs. That's why I'm somewhat surprised when
Yeah.
people talk about spoilers, is that it just feels really bad. I
agree.
turned Foxdrop up a ton. I'll do it even more, guys. I don't know why he's so quiet for you, because he sounds loud to me. But Foxdrop, this is the first time you have ever appeared in a piece of my content, I believe, or unless I'm incorrect.
Yeah. Absolutely. Unless you count the selfie I took with you 2015 Worlds at the Hilton Hotel.
Yes. Well,
But you probably don't remember that because you were absolutely wankered.
Wankered.
This is gonna be such a good episode.
Wait, which
I'm
stop?
so excited.
Which stop of Worlds was it?
London.
Okay.
Obviously. It was.
And I was drunk in London.
Yeah, there was the at the
I think
I'm
you were
pretty sure it was a
wankered,
Hilton,
Travis.
right?
I mean,
you're not a
I was
wanker, you're a
staying.
wanker.
I was staying in an Airbnb, but I was probably at the Hilton, hanging out with people
Right.
next to the venue.
Exactly, and that's right, and
Yeah.
that's where you were, and that's where you had engross yourself in the revelries as you do.
Yes, as I do.
Yeah, there it is. It's just
Well, do you want
Can I
to?
ask you a question
Go ahead.
about? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go, Kelby.
No, I was just gonna say. So I said wankered, but then you actually made an interesting comment that made me think about this further. So, because like you wouldn't call Travis a wanker, but is wankered then a term that means that you're an obnoxious drunk?
No, wankered is just generally a term for being drunk. Honestly,
Okay.
It's not really a comment on the person,
Okay.
Have
But
do you have
it's funny how they're kind of related in that regard. Though.
It is because if you call someone a wank, I mean in English you can just the banter is always on the cards, right? I could
Right.
call Travis a wanker, which would
Right.
mean, by definition, he is obnoxious, bit of a knob, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I could say it rather endearingly as well, and he could absolutely not be obnoxious or a bit of a knob. So,
Sure.
you know.
I'm going to
Fantastic.
need you to, every time you use an English term, to give a similarly detailed breakdown.
Do you want to know
Yes.
what's funny? Actually, here's a little story from the EULCS. Before Ender came on, right? He's the resident, the new NA boy, right? Before he joined the broadcast, because I'd worked with Quickshot and Medic and Pyra on EU Masters before coming to LCS. That's where they kind of decided to like, oh, this guy's cool. Let's bring him on to LCS. They actually had a little sit down with Ender and said to him, okay, these are the words this man might use, and this is what they mean. Legitimately,
you
they
this,
had
like-
a little, like... Yeah, seriously, I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. Quickshot told me that they did this. They legitimately gave a little breakdown for him of some of the words I might use and what those words mean.
Nice.
How common are English words for the rest of Europe to, like, understand? Is this just strictly an American problem, or is, like, an Italian not going to know what the fuck you're saying either?
It's probably the same thing, honestly. It's probably... They probably struggle as much. But this is the thing, is like... How do I strike the balance between, I'm just going to say these words anyway because these are the words I'm used to saying, and, you know, do these guys even know what I'm talking about at this point? And then there's the other side where people don't even care what I'm saying. Like, oh, he said a funny word. It's just, oh, peep, peep, cheerio.
I'll be honest, I heard he was a
Yeah,
wanker
and it's
and
like,
didn't exactly know what it meant, but kind of assumed, so...
yeah.
You never need to apologize for speaking proper English, all right? We are all in the wrong here, so...
That's true. I mean, it's my language, fellas.
Yes,
so
exactly.
let's just lay that one down first.
You get to define what is and isn't, all right? So-
Yeah?
Well,
We need,
Foxdrop,
like, a Foxdrop bingo sheet of
Given-
all, like, the little words he uses.
given that this is the first time that you are in my content, do you want to introduce yourself and explain your background and sort of your whole story in less than an hour?
Less than an hour, I think.
That's quite a generous time frame. I don't think I need...
55 minutes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll aim for the 55.
Well, we're still building audience, so that's
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
I'll waffle on a little bit. I know what that's like. You get the rubbish in the first 2-3 minutes, and then
Yeah.
once you hit the 10-minute marks, and you can stick the VOD on YouTube and put it in the mid-roll. length,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, exactly. That's the strategy.
No, this is even further back. This is like, what is it, 2012 era YouTube, where you just wanted, like, fat length?
Yeah.
Because
Well,
first it was about, like, virality, and then there was a period of time
Yeah.
where it was just about, like, Let's Plays for 6 hours, right?
Yeah.
mhm.
Okay, we're in the
Yes.
Let's Play
Okay.
era.
Good.
Yeah. This is the problem with YouTube, is no one really knows either, like, what really works on YouTube. YouTube doesn't tell anyone. They just
No.
change the algorithm all the bloody time, and no one knows what's going on. But that's, I feel like we're getting a bit sidetracked here.
Yeah.
I could rage about YouTube all day long if you want me to.
No.
If we
Please
wanna
tell
do
us who
this,
you are. Please just go with that. That would be good.
Yes,
Let's
okay.
start.
So my name's Foxdrop. If you haven't heard of me before, I started off making YouTube videos for League of Legends in like season 2 or so, when I was actually good at the game. And I made educational content, some funny stuff, whatever. And I've just been riding that wave all the way up until, let's say, last year, when I kind of diversified a little bit. Started doing a bit of casting for the local British scene, the UK scene. Then went to EU Masters, which is kind of like the sort of like scouting grounds, I guess, for the European, all the regional leagues, like the Spanish leagues, the German league, the French league, blah, blah, all over Europe. And so I was casting that. Quickshot was in that. He liked me. He was like, yo, let's come do some LCS stuff. So in the 2018 summer split, I was casting the LCS as well. So I'm now a YouTuber / streamer / caster / general knobhead. And now I'm honored to be joined in Travis's amazing content, because he makes amazing content.
Wow, thank you.
Travis and Mark's amazing.
And Mark Zimmerman.
Yeah.
This is
And
all-
Mark.
Yeah,
And Kelby. Kelby's here too.
And
That's,
I'm on half these things.
And
um,
Kelby.
all right. Well, regardless, welcome to the show. Super happy to have you here. It's nice that we've been able to so far have a bit of a more international cast for Hotline League, as we are covering an international event, which is Worlds. Starting as for the context of anybody watching the VOD, we are a little bit less than 5 hours out from the start of Worlds. I'm in Korea. Hopefully, hotel internet keeps up, but I've been able to stream before and it's been fine. And so crazy time zone situation here. But let's see. That's all the stuff to talk about. Obviously, we got World's Group Stage. Last time we did the show, we still were we were in between groups and knockout stage for plans. So there's that to talk about. G2 and Cloud9 looking a little rocky. We've got the double lift ad that came out, hype video. I'm trying to think of what other cool, exciting stuff has happened in the past, I don't know, 5 days or so.
Top 20?
Oh, top 20. A lot of
top
people have been
20.
asking about that. So yeah, like basically, but ultimately it is on you guys that we, throwing out those topics there, but it's on you guys to decide what we talk about on the show tonight. Mark, do you want to do a bit of an explanation on how it works so we can start getting questions while we jibber jabber a bit?
Yep, so if you've never seen the show before, I'm posting in Twitch chat right now a link to our Discord that we are in. Spam the shit out of it. If you want to click that link and join up, once you get here, there is a Pleb Calls or Pleb Calls 2 voice channel. I'll need you to join that so I can pull you into the waiting room if your topic is selected. You can mute yourself once you're in there at first, though. And then in Pleb Topics, the text channel, you're going to go ahead and post whatever it is you want to talk about. And we try and make sure that these are, takes. So don't just say, I want to talk about World's Top 20. Say, you think Caps was underrated. He's a top 5 player. You think Caps is overrated. He's no ways better than Maple. Whatever it is, post your take in there so we can talk about it. If we like your take, I'll pull you from Pleb Calls to the waiting room. When it's your turn, I will do a mic check with you in the waiting room. And then we'll pull you onto the on-air to discuss the calls.
Yeah, other stuff that got announced, Twitch chat pointed out, All-Stars. The players getting fined. I think it was 16 players got warned or fined or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd love to
get him on this episode here.
Love to get a topic on that.
Moly.
And yeah, Kelby's got some stuff to talk about. And just a bunch of different stuff. So, while Mark is looking at that stuff, Foxdrop, how do you feel about EU this year?
I feel good about Fnatic. If that sort of answers your question. I think that I don't know. I'm always going to have high expectations of EU because I've been watching the competitive scene since season 2. I've been watching since Diamond Prox picked Shyvana when Shyvana was like not even a champion and just permanently invading and just redefined how League of Legends was played from the jungle. And I've always had these. I don't think I'm ever going to get those rose-tinted goggles off my head. So I'm always hoping for the best for EU, and realistically. Fnatic, I think they can do some good stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been trying to think about a year in which the West overall has been this underhyped because it feels like North America. Like some of the fans are trying to really say like, oh, Cloud9 or oh Team Liquid or oh yeah, 100 Thieves is there. And on the EU side, like I literally only hear people talk about Fnatic. And for the most part, in NA, we're also all kind of like, are they even going to make it out of groups? We were one game away, I think, from having potentially our North America's worst worlds ever. If Cloud9 didn't make it out, we would have only sent 2 teams into group stage and potentially had both of those 2 teams not move on. So I can't remember a time where the West as a whole was this undervalued or under anticipated going into Worlds.
Well, our first caller will make sure we don't turn this narrative around. Twinkle Toes is here.
Okay, cool. Well, you just pulled him.
He's been in here for like 10 seconds.
Okay, well, Twinkle Toes, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from?
Hey guys, I am calling from Sherman Oaks.
Sherman Oaks, which is in the greater Los Angeles area. For those of you that are not LA natives, probably have no idea where Sherman Oaks is, but California. So what do you want to talk about on the show tonight, Twinkle Toes?
Well, ever since I started playing League of Legends back in Season 3, I have always been a fan of the professional scene. So I first found out about the NALCS, and yes, I did actually go to a couple games back in the studio in Redondo Beach.
Sure.
But considering the result of the last 5 World Championships, I want to remind everyone why it's time to jump on the Korean hype train and why Korea is going to win their 6th consecutive World Championship.
Okay, go ahead and this is a very exciting take to have to start the show. Go ahead and tell us why we should all give up.
Well, I think all 3 teams that are coming from the LCK region to the World Championship have a legitimate chance of winning, and a reminder to everyone that they got the 3 guaranteed seeds since they won the MSI last year.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly what you guys would want. Like, do you want me to?
I would ask, do you have any concerns given the fact that in most of the times that I think every time they've clashed versus RNG, they have lost this year in international competition, being Rift Rivals, MSI, and the Asia Games.
Sure, and I understand that that's like the logical counterpoint, but the only thing I want to point out about that is the Korean fans were a little uncertain as to why for that Game 5 of the Rift Rivals they sent out the Afrika Freaks to play instead of KT Rolster, because KT Rolster had not actually lost a game at the tournament prior to that.
Sure.
So, I am a KT fan. I know that the meme is sort of supposed to be that I'm supposed to tell you how bad they are and how they're going to choke again. But I'm on the KT hype train, and I think that they are going to win the World Championship specifically.
I mean, it's interesting to have this conversation, especially after what I just saw the sort of teaser that's going to show up right before group stage. They put it out on YouTube where you have Caster Jung from LCK sort of talking about how Korea's been dominant for so long, but this is the first year where like that might not happen. And so then, you know, you're calling in and kind of offering that counterpoint. I don't know. I mean, I just think RNG's on a tear. Uzi is positioned to be the faker of this tournament. It's hard for me to understand why it's such a go-to, just like, 100% LCK will win whenever you have sort of like the final boss here. I guess what it is interesting, though, when you say this is that like it does feel like the only alternative, you've got Genji, you've got KT, and then even people are like, well, by the way, there's Afrika too. They might be kind of scary. And it's interesting that there's like one alternative to that, which is RNG. So the odds maybe are just in LCK's favor just because of the sheer number of teams that they have that look competitive.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to say is even if RNG is the favorite, like of all the teams that could win it, there's still only one Chinese team that people are legitimately talking about. And like Korea still has Griffin at home. Like they have so many fucking good teams.
Yeah, I was personally disappointed that Griffin did not end up going to the World Championship.
I'm curious too how much home field advantage is going to play a factor here, and the fact that like I think probably historically the Korean players that I've known and like the teams that I've talked to have really not liked to travel. Not that anybody likes to travel, but they really appreciate being at home. And I think always it's really nice to play in front of your home crowd. I think that the Korean fans can really help push the Korean teams through this year, especially considering the fact that like I think they do feel and are tapped into the fact that like they are vulnerable this year. Like they're not gods. It's not a given. And hopefully I'm hoping as a fan for the experience that pushes like their level of enthusiasm in these matches to like new levels, and that they're really excited on broadcast.
I think Worlds is much more, or any international tournament is much more fun when the winner isn't like really clear from the beginning.
Right.
I feel like, especially when SKT's been around, right? It's just been like, okay, let's talk about the other teams. We all know who's actually going to win, but let's talk about the other 20 teams who are in the tournament. You know, that's regardless of who wins. Just getting a bit sidetracked here, whether it is the LCK or whether it is RNG. By the way, I think we're selling IG a little bit short here as well. Let's not forget they were like 18-1 in the regular season, way better than RNG did. You know,
and
stuff happened since then. But
oops, sorry.
No, that's fine. It's IG aren't just like, you know, let's forget about them sort of thing. But I do think that, you know, I sort of want China to win just because it would be cool to see a non-Korean team win, and what fashion to do it in then, come into their own house and shit on their doormat.
Especially if it's Uzi, who has like always
Yeah.
been the one fighting them in the finals.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to argue too much against you, Twinkle Toes. You picked maybe the safe prediction, which is LCK may
just
win
wanted to say
again.
that I had to open with the team that I cared the most about, which was KT, but I didn't want to discount either Genji or Afrika Freaks because of players like Keen and players like Kuro
Yeah.
and Haru, who was popping off in Genji's gauntlet run to the third seed for the World Championship, which is what they came in last year when they won as Samsung Galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. It's always kind of fun. This is my favorite part of Worlds, to be honest, which is right before groups start, because then you lead into like even though there are always the favorite teams, the field kind of feels way open, and groups is when all the crazy upsets happen because Riot insists on doing best of one, which allows for really fun narratives, and it's just pretty neat. I feel like after you get through, like, quarters is usually not that great because you're matching up kind of like the flukes. It all gets sorted out essentially. Then obviously you have semis and finals, but this is the fun part. So I don't know if anybody else has any final thoughts on this, or Twinkle Toes, if you have anything you want to say before we move on to the next caller. But I think it's a fair conversation to have. Very good. Well, thanks, Twinkle Toes, for the call.
I think maybe just...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say the one thing that I wanted to remind everyone was with Genji, last year Crown was just put on Malzahar duty to deal with Faker, so you never know, it might just work again.
Yeah, maybe. Thanks again for the call.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Shout outs to you.gg.
Yeah, thank you. Sponsor for Worlds. Thanks, man. All right, moving on to the next caller. As my cursor moves around, I want to give a shout out to the people who subbed just now. Zhao Wei Zhong, Captain Eddie, Dadstonia, who sent 500 bits. Can't sub till Thursday, so I have the rest of my bits. Alex Tequila 23, who resubbed for 8 months in VNC Russia with Twitch Prime. Iros resubbed for 2 months and says, Travis for Sexiest Male Esports Journalist 2018, Kappa Pride. Well, thank you. It's very nice. I don't know what my competition is there, but looks like you've got another caller here. KRC25. KRC25, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Henrietta, just outside of Rochester, New York.
Okay.
Hey, I went to school in Rochester.
RIT?
Yeah, dude.
Yep.
What are you studying?
Computer information technology.
Ooh, you got the long walk on the quarter mile.
Yep.
Well,
rough,
none of that was relevant to me. I don't understand what just happened. But I'm glad you guys know each other. KRC, what do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So my hot take of the evening is Fnatic taking first seed in their group because I think all of their lanes are just superior to anyone else in their group. I'd like to say that Invictus would be putting up the best fight in the group, just because, well, like you guys mentioned earlier, they put up a good contest RNG in the finals. I think he went 5 games. But I think that just the use of their subs top lane and the Shy, like, kind of having that injury and working back for it, I think top lane's just going to be superior for Fnatic. Mid lane, Caps is in his best form that he's been. I mean, some people would argue that Rookie is in a better form, but I don't personally see Rookie beating Caps. I guess that's just my personal fan support. But I think that he's going to outperform Rookie at Worlds. And then their bot lane is, reckless. There's not really much else you could say. He's been top tier for the longest time. And I think they'll just outperform anyone else in the group. IG, G-Rex, 100. I don't think it's going to even be close.
Really quickly,
Yeah,
I just want to say, Foxdrop, before we get to Foxdrop, I want to take this. Kyle0808 just gifted 45 subs in the chat, so that's pretty cool. Don't ever want to interrupt for this, but 45 subs is pretty fucking significant. He also sent 55
I'm
videos.
pretty sure, not to give it away too much, but Kyle 080 is in the waiting room right now, and I think he had something similar, if I remember correctly. But either way, I think he's hyped about this take.
Okay, cool. Foxdrop, how is Fnatic going to do this? Are they number 1 seed in their group?
Before I answer the question, I'll just say, buddy, I'll have what you're having. But you know what? You say it with confidence. I wouldn't say it with such confidence, but do I see a world where that will happen? Absolutely. I think that IG are really good, honestly, and I think people kind of sleeping them a little bit because RNG is like the spotlight Chinese team right now. But I think perhaps, I mean, Rookie is like really good, by the way. I think that's one of the things we have to mention. Everyone's hyping up Caps, right, with Fnatic and how Caps is going to do. And honestly, I think that's for good reason, because when I was in one of like the post broadcast day meeting thingamajigs that you do, like the story meet wrap up thingamajigs. I did hear a certain prominent EU LCS caster say that Caps is the most talented player EU has ever produced. Just saying that. So I don't know whether he'd go on record as saying that, but he did say it. So either way, Caps is bloody good. And I know Shox was on here just yesterday saying, or last time, sorry, saying let's not hype up Fnatic and Caps and all that stuff. But fuck it, Shox, I'm doing it. But I think, as regarding GRX and 100 Thieves, fair enough. You know, I don't think those two will put up much of a fight against Fnatic. I think 100 Thieves can take a game for them because it's, you know, best of one round robin. Like it could happen, right? And I see you shaking your head, Kelby. I'm just saying it could happen. All right, strange things have happened.
It's possible.
How quickly you forget G2, 2016, 2015, or sorry, 17. Whatever,
I mean,
when they had,
they
like,
do say that NA teams perform better when everyone has no expectations of them. So if Fun of Thieves is going in, you know, with everyone on Reddit saying, "Oh, they don't deserve to be here," then they just have the world to perform to, you know. So.
By the way, Foxdrop, Twitch chat claims that Deficio said that about Caps on the top 20, on the world's top 20.
Oh, did he?
Yes. So if that was him,
he's already said it. Then I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
Did he actually say Did he say those specific words?
I mean, that's what Twitch chat's saying. I didn't watch top 20 because it was set about time for me. But
okay. Well, I can neither confirm nor deny it was him that I heard say it. But, you know, either way, like Caps is. To be fair, this is one of the things about going into groups that I'm most excited to watch. Right, is in Group D is just that mid lane matchup, Rookie and Caps, because Rookie has been highly touted by everyone. When Perks was streaming, just during his bootcamp, whatever, when they're preparing for play-ins, he said someone asked him who's the best mid lane in the world. He just went Rookie. Like, drop of a hat, bam, no thinking, just Rookie. He Perks rates Rookie really, really highly. I think everyone rates Rookie ridiculously high. It's like number 2, I think, on the top 20. Everyone knows Rookie's a beast, right? And it's like, okay, so everyone in the West is hyping Caps, and is that because he's actually a bloody good player, or because we want him to be a bloody good player?
Yeah, we need a avatar. We need somebody to lift up and root for.
Right. Who's the anime protagonist of the 2018 Worlds? We want it to be Caps.
Yeah. I was talking with Jad about it. There's the Bjergsen Award every year on the top 20, which is just like the designated NA or West like poster child for like this is our hope against the East. And this year it's Caps.
Yeah, I think that's fair, honestly. But at the same time, I think Caps kind of. I want to see him. I think he has potential to earn that, to earn the hype, and that just for me is like, I'm excited about that mid lane matchup, and I do think Fnatic can absolutely go toe to toe with IG. And for me, it's about the rookie bot laners, Jackie Love especially. He's like 17, I think. When I was talking to Raz, he gave me some really good info about the Chinese teams, and he was like, "This is the one thing that is maybe a question mark for this team: is how do these guys are ridiculously green, they're really inexperienced. How are they going to fare on the world stage? Because it's totally different than when you're playing domestically. For a young kid like that, legit, I was the dumbest dickhead when I was 17, and this guy's being shoved into the world stage, and of course that's going to affect him, right? Maybe not. Maybe he's just got maybe he's made out of iron." Well, I can't say that anymore, can I? That means he's crap if I call someone iron. Yeah. Maybe he's made out of, whatever. I don't really know what's tough and some kind of great alloy. But
I don't think
even diamond shit
is made of butter.
Yeah.
So, sometimes what I find you will see with like really, really green players, though, especially if they're young, is that on the world stage, like they are so naive that they don't understand the scale of the event that they're playing in, and the pressure flies by them. It's happened a couple times. But I agree with you guys entirely. I think that it's just between those two teams. I think that this is probably this and group, is it B? Group B are like the two most lopsided groups as far as like there's two really, really clear, definitive teams that are going to get out. Even considering it's best of one format, I would highly expect that these guys. And then like you just have best of ones. You got two best of ones, and you just gotta win them. And because it's best of one, like anything can happen. But I do think that because like they have the answer to Caps and Rookie, that it is probably something where I would still think that it's Fnatic's not getting out first in the group. But as far as them advancing further in the tournament, I think that Fnatic is the West probably best chance.
Probably.
Of
Who would
like
you argue
making
has
it
better chance?
Yeah, like because just I think that TL is the only other team that really has a chance of getting out of groups. And if you want to go further than quarters, you really want to get first. And I think it's probably an easier route for Fnatic than TL to get first in their group.
So there's one point I'm still sticking on a little bit with what KRC said, which is that they match up better individually across the board. I can see the debate a little bit with Caps versus Rookie and Reckless versus Jackie Love a little bit, but like I don't see it really in the top lane. I think Soaz is a really great player, but like, and I know the Shy did have his surgery in a slower and weaker summer split than he had compared to his like insane spring, but I don't know, dude. Even Duke is like super good. Like both of them are pretty good. So I'm not sure I'm quite on board with that.
Are you thinking about Soaz or playoff Soaz? Because those are two different beasts.
Just have the world's buff.
Is he on dog champs?
Well, yeah, I don't know whether he'll be on dog champs or not. But he gets the playoff buffs, man. You can't argue against that.
So go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say the thing is I don't know if the meta is great for Soaz. Like either you're playing the Urgot Aatrox like fighter meta, or you're banning both them and playing tanks top, which I don't know what Soaz is gonna end up doing in this. Is my only thing.
Yeah. He'll probably be on a dog champ.
Yeah.
No,
I feel like he's gonna be on dog champ duty.
I was just gonna say
sub factor. Oh, go ahead, Drops.
No, go for it.
I think like the sub factor is going to come in like rather big. I think even myself I'm underestimating it. Like so, even though you could say it's best of one, right, and it doesn't matter if you lose the first game, right? I think the first game maybe they pull out Whippo. They show the aggression. They show that they're not to be run over, and then they pull out Soaz if the first game doesn't go well, and they stick him on like you guys said a dog champ. But I think just having like two separate top laners that can work well, like I don't know. I don't see either one of IG's top laners like outperforming them by a number, where it's like, oh, they're just taking over the game or anything like that. I think both of them can put up a fight no matter who you throw in.
I think flexing subs is much easier in best ofs, like best of 3 or best of 5, right?
So here's one of the things I was gonna say. Fnatic, there's all this pressure on them, and I feel like at times we've seen, Reckless not look great at international events. The same way we've seen Doublelift not look great at international events. And Caps is overhyped, but he's still kind of green. I know he's been around for a while. I feel like there's a world here, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but I think people should be open to the idea that like there's a world here where Fnatic crumbles and just like looks really bad over the next couple of days. I feel like there's a really good chance of that, and nobody wants to talk about it because like, oh wait, Fnatic, the Western chance, Caps, he's the EU Jesus. But like I think there's a really good chance that could happen.
I think the problem is that like if you put them in a slightly tougher group, I would be more down with that. But like even if they like choke to an extent, you're looking at like a full on G2 2016 1-5 out of fucking nowhere meltdown. Which is possible, but if it's just like we underperformed a little bit, I still think that's probably good enough to get past GRX and 100 Thieves.
Yeah. Very good. Well, hey, is it KRC? Thank you for the call. Really appreciate it. And I think it's a good topic and a fun one. We'll have to see how things go.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, have a good one. Okay, on to the next caller. I have to shout out a ton of stuff. Okay, here we go. VNC Russia, Arrows, Kyle 0808, Rapound 23, The Nightmare, GWTVS, Nixiv, Apple Computers, Panda Man 7, Gnome Sandbro, BNB Gamers, Momo, B0, Asian Boy Bryant, 80 Sean, Rifleman 0, Nuke King 5, Benny Quest, Board, Thomas, KW Doggy, OMG No Good 1, Kyle, Black Zito, Punk Rock Music, Oystens, Pokemon Han, Shrubby 21, Illumini Danny TV, Red Rounder, Pimhoff, Jazzbard BR, Concrete for Life, Siri 23, AZ Yanks Fan, Dirty Pure, King Mugsy, Unicorn Control, Mason Baker, Becker, Lothi, Grumpa, The Pit Father, Aram Simon, Everyday Rustler, Pablo, Jalitha, and Goomber, Cruels 521, Mike Nick 4, Chad Miller 0, and Wally Wall. Okay, I'm gonna get the rest of them later on. This is the first time on the show anybody's gifted that many subs, so it was a tough one. Soupy is here. Soupy, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Rockville, Maryland.
Nice to hear. A lot of, I think, what is this? A couple of people from the Northeast. Either way, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
I just want to talk about the overall fan reactions to NA teams losing at like international tournaments. And I think it's just like a pretty toxic cycle where I think it's mostly Reddit tends to hype themselves up with like pro player interviews and solo queue ranking. And then once NA teams lose in groups or they lose in best of series, it tends to get very toxic very quickly. And I think it's having a pretty negative effect on NA pro players' mental health. And that NA teams aren't really preparing their players for this inevitable reaction.
So do you take issue with the hyping up in the beginning or just like the fall that occurs after?
I think it's kind of everything. I mean, there's a general consensus in NA now that we don't hype up our teams. And it's just like pretty typical of Reddit that you can just like go on. I think there was that Double F Inven interview, which everyone was like, oh my god, they fixed their issues. They're going to go far. And I think it's just kind of unrealistic expectations.
So you're saying we shouldn't hype up our players, or we should?
I think it's fine to hype up players, but I think that it eventually causes a negative reaction because of cultural problems with NA.
Okay.
I feel like this is more specifically a TSM problem, though. Like, I don't remember how bad the backlash was to CLG in 2016 when they didn't make it out, or Immortals in 2017. Like, we called them chokers. We said they like should have gotten out, which I think was all true, and we were disappointed and stuff. I don't remember like going like full on like mob trying to burn people at the stake, quite like what happens every time TSM doesn't make it out of groups. So I don't know how much of that I feel is an NA specific problem versus the TSM problem.
Yeah, I feel like it's a TSM problem.
But I think there was also TL at MSI that was pretty bad as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. But that was also such a weird situation just because of what happened with Ole.
Yeah. Do we feel like we're at risk for this world? I don't feel like NA is really hyped right now. Specifically TL. I don't feel like TL is really hyped.
Or
am I missing that? Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no other team that would be hyped from NA.
I actually think TL is a bit underhyped, honestly. I think there's a decent chance they can get out of groups.
Yeah, no, I agree.
They don't have to. KT Roster and Edo Gaming are looking like the two teams that might be top two. And, if KT Roster is the crocodile chasing, you don't have to outrun the crocodile, you have to outrun the fat kid behind you. And Edward EDG looks pretty chubby, honestly, in the play-in. So I think there's a chance, there's a decent chance. And this is actually quite interesting because I was browsing the old Twitteroonie earlier this evening or this afternoon for you, fine American gentlemen.
It was this morning for me. Thank you.
Oh, this morning. Sorry for you, Travis. And I saw a little bit of a debate between Locodoco and LS. I don't know if any of you guys saw this, where there were...
Time to look it up.
Yeah, that sounds like a fire debate. Those two they don't hold...
Yeah. It seemed pretty decent, honestly. But basically, LS was convinced that Team Liquid have basically zero macro, and that's why they're gonna get that's why EDG's second and TL's third. But there is a chance, just from a pure talent perspective, that they're kind of equal. But EDG will just edge out just a little bit. And Loco was like, actually, TL have really good macro. I know they're playing in NA and they're playing against arguably worse opposition or a region that's not known for its macro strength. But TL, objectively speaking, set up vision well, all that lovely business.
Yeah.
And LS was just like, no, I don't think they're very good. And then like I was like, but if your argument's about macro, EDG have showed really crap macro in the plane, that kind of thing. It lost me a little bit towards the end there, but essentially, I think it's a good point where we don't have expectations of NA anymore. I know this goes against the point that the caller's making here, and I think specifically for this year, there are no expectations of NA. No one is talking about Team Liquid potentially making it out of groups. Realistically,
Right.
people are saying that the only team that has a good chance of getting out of groups, that maybe even will make it out of groups, is Fnatic in Group D. And I think, honestly, Team Liquid could absolutely do that. I don't think EDG is that tough of an opponent for them to beat. Not it'll be easy, but I could see them doing it.
What's the over-under for you? Like, is this a 50-50 chance or 40-60?
I would say it's maybe like 60-40 EDG, personally.
Okay.
I think it's pretty close.
On the topic of, fans bashing people, how do you feel like it is for EU?
Oh, I love it. So, EU is... I would say EU is more barbaric. Does that make sense? They're rabid in a sense. It's almost like a football culture, soccer culture. Sorry,
yeah, there you go. I know.
You can say football. It's fine.
But I think people are very. It gets it's kind of almost scary, when you see some of the backlash that comes against, or just how passionate EU fans are for EU teams. And it seems NA is just like a disappointed mother, but slightly disappointed mother. I'm not angry, I'm disappointed, but it's also actually really angry as well. That's how NA fans kind of seem when they're disappointed in their teams. The one thing I would say about the comparison between EU and NA kind of fan bases is the way they treat each other, right? And this always gets me. I love reading this stuff on Reddit, especially where. Because NA, generally speaking, has the kind of perhaps weaker results historically, especially at international tournaments. EU's always kind of got a jab on them. They've got more ammunition, right? They've got the heavier hook. And NA fans, it's so back and forth. Whenever NA fans beat an EU team, they're go in so hard on the EU teams and just yeah, fuck you, you suck. Then when EU teams beat NA, it's basically the same thing. But what I love about it is how both sides act like the other side is the worst one. As in the other side's community is the harsher community.
Yeah.
NA fans will say, yeah, well, it's just EU. We're not really like this when we beat them, but when they beat us, they're so mean about it and they really don't let it go. They're just really, and it's no, listen here, dickheads. I've been watching competitive league since before it started, right? And I can tell you, it's the same every year. Whatever side of the EU-NA divide you're... NA fans are knobs to EU teams when they win, and EU fans are knobs to NA teams when they win. The only reason NA fans think they have it worse is because, generally speaking, they perform worse at international tournaments. But both fan bases are just as bad as each other for really digging into that rivalry.
I love
Right.
I was just going to say I love it because I've interviewed EU players who have come over to NA solo queue, and I think a lot of this reflects, especially when you were talking about the disappointed mother, a lot of it reflects how I've heard people describe EU versus NA solo queue, where EU solo queue people will just be like, go kill yourself. It's just it's so brute force and angry, whereas apparently NA will be just as toxic, but in a very sarcastic way, wow, that was a really good play, man. Good job. Yeah, it's
exactly.
It's
100%. I played on NA, and that is the biggest difference. Is I lose my mind when someone on EU tells me to go kill myself or tells me Kurvar or whatever these words they want to throw at me. I'm just like, all right, buddy, that's nice. When I've got an NA person talking down to me, condescending me, don't condescend to me, random NA player.
Yeah.
Oh,
don't condescend to me. What is that quote from?
It's Wings. It's Muffin Cutie and Wings.
Yeah.
Don't condescend to me, Wings.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that in so long.
Yeah,
it's an old meme, but it checks out.
It's just something about it. It totally rubs me the wrong way.
All right. Two things on what you said. I think I 100% agree on your point that the reason NA fans feel like EU fans are bigger dickheads is because generally EU fans are performing worse. I 100% get that coming from a Boston sports fan where people are like, Boston sports fans are insufferable. It's no, we just won a lot more and we brag like any fan base would do. every fan base that wins suddenly becomes the most insufferable fan base. So I 100% agree on that. The one point I think they do differ is like, I don't know why it's just this year. I didn't see it at all before, but this year EU fans, just because of the time slot, like, have been just bitching and moaning nonstop about like caster bias because not everyone thinks Fnatic is like the second coming of Jesus Christ. Like
I've seen a lot of that.
It's been insane.
I don't know why this year everyone's going crazy about caster bias, because I do see it more from EU fans, so maybe that's just because of the time that I'm at or something. But NA fans have been doing this too. Yesterday in my stream, somebody was donating money to explain to me how Shox was super biased against.
Oh yeah, she gets it so bad. What the fuck?
And like everybody, actually everyone on the analyst desk is probably biased. That's the whole point of having like the international thing where like you've got Deficio and Jet telling each other "fuck you" at All-Star or at Rift Rivals. Like that stuff is fun,
right?
And to be fair, there's a difference between favoritism and bias. I would say like favoritism is just like who you want to win and like who you hype up more. Bias is when like it impacts your ability to critically think about what's happening.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like. I am a super NA favoritist, but like I don't think I'm biased. I think we suck balls. Like I will admit if those two definitions are too far apart, and you just want to lump them together under biased. Sure, I'm biased.
I think there's two things that I kind of take away from this as both like from a casting background and just from like a spectator background. From a spectator standpoint, I want. If you come in from the OPL, tell me why your Aussie lads are going to take it all. Tell me, tell me why your jungler is like the best jungler and why he's going to whip out his pocket Karma jungle and just dick on everyone. Like, tell me that. I love that, and I think that's the whole point. When, like you were saying, Travis, that when you've got international events and you're pulling in casters from the various regions, isn't the whole point that they're there to kind of give their expertise, but also like they're there to tell you why you should be excited about watching this team or this player that you haven't heard of because you've not been watching them because all you watch is NA or EU LCS, which I think the majority of the Western fan base does. And from a caster perspective, this happened to me when I was casting EU Masters actually. When it was like one of the kind of favorites of the tournament against one of the UK teams, and I was talking about how. Basically, I had so much more knowledge about the UK teams than I did the other team, and I'd done my research about the other team. I knew, patterns about how they draft, play styles, that kind of stuff. But you can't replace the experience you gain from just casting teams for like months, right? And it was just, if I'm going to fall back on knowledge, it's gonna be about what I know, like the knowledge, what I know what I'm talking about. That's not good English, whatever. And I think that just happens as well from a logical standpoint. If it sounds like casters or analysts are being biased when they display more information about one thing than another thing, if that makes sense. And I think that's just natural as well to a degree.
Yeah, we've kind of gone off topic. Soupy, back to what you were saying. Do you have an answer? What would you want NA fans to do, or how would you want them to behave in a way that you think would better support the teams and better set the teams up for success from like a fan support perspective?
I mean, I think it's just about having reasonable expectations for the most part. I think that a great thought experiment is just like 2017 G2 had basically the same group as 2016 TSM, but the reaction to TSM not making it out of that group was vastly different from 2017 G2. So it's just like the expectations were clearly set for G2 going into the group, and they didn't make it out, and the overall fan reaction wasn't extremely negative like it was to the 2016 TSM team. So I think overall it's just kind of, it's like unrealistic to expect a radical culture change in NA to be more accommodating to like pro players being people and not playing perfectly. And then also like it's like in a perfect world it would be more like clear expectations and not like hyping each other up like, oh my god, TL's gonna go to semis or some shit.
Yeah.
Or like, but
well, the good news is you don't have any hype for NA this year. This will be the test for you, I think.
Oh, I'm still hyped for TL. I got my boy Doublelift's gonna go far.
Okay, well, you just said you wanted realistic expectations, so hopefully those prove out to be realistic. I don't know. Speaking of, Speaking of bias, I was going to say, Shocks just messaged me and said, can we get KBBQ tonight in celebration of TL's victory over KT? So Shocks is on board with you. She's ready to support TL.
Also on the bias topic, look at Vedius trying to hype up G2. I linked it in the thing. Like, is that not over? Is this the kind of stuff that would concern you, Soupy? Like, if an NA caster was doing this, would you say that
What
this
was
is
he
building
doing?
too many expectations?
Doing what?
I linked it. I'll put it in the Twitch chat. But like, the like, you're trolling if you think G2 isn't getting out of Group A. I think he's doing it pretty tongue in cheek. I don't think he's being 100%.
Well, he said it at
he's
first
wrong.
realistically, right? And then he got he about Supermassive, and then they lost. I thought that was the whole thing.
Yeah,
I think
this
it's
is like
also-
a.
oh.
Sorry, go on.
No,
man.
I think it's also just a bit where it's like there's such a. I think it's also just loss aversion, right? Where it's like the whole idea that losing feels twice as bad as winning feels good. So like when your team loses that you really wanted to win, it's just such a visceral reaction. And I think a lot of people are still pretty young in watching the esport, so it's just like they don't understand that when they're shit talking like a pro player, that there's like a person that may end up reading it, right? So it's just like when an NA team does well, it's like it's great, but when they do poorly, I think it also has to be like a measured response. Like it's okay to feel bad and be disappointed. It's another thing to attack the person, and just like the amount of hate Bjergsen got, I think last year was just like pretty unacceptable. Or Sven Skaren at 2017 MSI was also terrible.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for the call, Soupy. I really appreciate it. You have anything you want to say before we go?
No, just don't hype up KT, and I think that the caller before me, who was saying Rookie was worse than Caps, is also just playing into the game, because Rookie used to be on KT, and he's probably still got some of that in him.
Yeah, very good. Well, hey, thank you so much,
Insect
Soupy.
was on KT as well, mate. We all know how that went.
Have a good
All
one.
right, thanks for having me. Bye.
All right, so really quickly, we have an ad break to talk about our new sponsor. Drumroll, please. Our new sponsor, a mystery sponsor we can't talk about yet, but it is coming soon. Excited to tell you guys all about that whenever that happens. They are sponsoring this show. I want to thank them for sponsoring this show. Helps it make it so that I can be doing this in this hotel room. Mark is able to get some support. He's not getting paid tonight. He's not doing a broadcast for Riot. He's able to make something. That's what he's trying to do. Let me tell you about the new sponsor. The new sponsor has been around for some time, and they've been around for maybe less than 500 years and more than 5 minutes. They make products that I think are fantastic. It might be a single product, it might be multiple ones. I can't really disclose that, but I'll just tell you, premium, fantastic products. It's not Tidy Cats. I know everyone thinks it's Tidy Cats. I'm shocked and surprised at how far the Tidy Cats meme has gone. But no,
that was clear when you said premium products, Travis.
My
Tidy
cat
Cats is shit.
My cat is happy that it's not Tidy Cats. He would much rather have this mysterious gentleman sponsor.
Yes,
We don't
exactly.
want Tidy Cats anymore.
Yes, well, just for context for you, Foxdrop, a couple weeks ago we announced the departure of our previous partner. We now have a sponsor, but we are not in a position to announce them yet. So excited to see.
So if you could just say something nice about our anonymous sponsor, Foxdrop.
It sounds amazing, honestly. I mean, I've heard a bit of whispers, and from what I hear, the only thing bad I can say about the sponsor is the fact that the viewers can't know what it is. Because that must be, if they knew what they were missing out on, holy shit.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks so much to Mystery Sponsor for your support of this show. Can't wait to announce it more. And if you want to support the Mystery Sponsor, go ahead and here I'm gonna do a little title T right action right now. Go ahead and just shout out on Twitter, Hotline League Mystery Sponsor. And if you tweet that out, just say thank you, Hotline League Mystery Sponsor. Oh, I misspelled it. Need a Y in there. If you throw that up on Twitter, they'll see it. They'll know that you love their products too, and that you wholly endorse everything they stand for as a brand. Hashtag Hotline League or hashtag HLL Mystery Sponsor. Throw that out to them. See it in the Twitch chat. Thank you guys. All right. on to the next caller. Mark's going to go grab him while I read out some more names, including one wonderful person named John Zoidberg, PhD, who donated $50 and said, "Enjoy Korea." Just so you guys know, I actually know who that person is. They work at Universal Studios and hooked me and some friends up with some free tickets to go to Universal before we left. So thank you to that individual for not only the free tickets, but also the $50. That's super generous. We also have Nedex Eichot, Zephyr Glisteneman, of Mason Men, T Turner 088, Tarandu, Supercharged B, LOL Scamler 1, Adderall X, and Dois Migueleto. Thank you very much for your support of the show. We're joined right now, speaking of support of the show, we're joined by a legend who, by the way, Mark did not know that he was going to send the subs, did not know that yesterday he sent 55, and pulled him into the waiting room anyway, because his question was so good it stood on its own. He didn't have to bribe us to get on, but certainly, it would have helped had he known. Kyle0808 is joining us right now. Kyle0808, where are you calling from?
Calling from Vancouver, British Columbia.
Vancouver. Very good. I love Vancouver. It's a great place to go. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
I want to talk about a topic that Kelby's been looking to, the competitive ruling that came down this last week.
Ooh.
I want to say how it's a joke. I mean, it's a slap on the wrist for something that in the past has been some major offenses, and it really sets a bad precedent for any future competitive rulings. I mean, specifically when you look at Uzi and the Korean coach, they should have been punished much more severely. And I understand that Uzi's the most popular player in China, but a simple one-game suspension or even larger fines could have at least shown a greater intolerance toward this behavior. And even just the regular players that were issued warnings, they should be held to a higher standard. I mean, they're role models. So I think at the minimum, some fine should be handed up.
Kelby, you were managing a team not some time ago. It was named CLG. And there was a bit of a scandal involving CLG in which I think one Nick Allen, who's in the Twitch chat right now, I don't think he issued the ruling personally, but he was actually basically the commissioner of NALCS at the time. I would love for you to sort of set the stage by describing this situation and what took place with CLG at that time.
Sure. So, as far as I recall the details exactly, and I won't go through like the entire story, but essentially, we found a loophole in Riot's rules in which we could field a substitute roster and send our team to Korea to boot camp prior to playoffs coming up, because regardless of our results, our standings would not change. So Riot, understandably, not super excited that we were going to field scabs for 2 weeks in LCS, but we wanted to get the best results possible. We sent the team off to Korea. Monty was over there. We were doing a boot camp. And in that process, we asked Riot for accounts. They were not happy about us going over there. They were not super eager to get us accounts. So in the time while the guys were over there, we were using accounts that we had access to, and then they gave us a competitive ruling, which was a very like meager fine, but the more significant portion of it was that the guys got banned from LCK for 2 years. They couldn't go and compete, or I guess it was OGN at the time. This was something that we were coordinating with Riot on. Like we were in the process of getting accounts. We used them without, we used Riot provided accounts early without their access because we wanted to make use of the playtime, but we weren't advertising that fact or anything like that. And then we have this situation that occurs with Uzi, where he's not going to Riot to try and get an account and not get access. He's just using a bot or, illegally provided account, which, yes, historically has also brought down much stiffer punishment. The thing that is, super concerning to me about this is not only the fine amount, not that, there was no restriction against him playing in Korea, because I do think that especially if Uzi were to win Worlds this year, there's a potential for that guy potentially having incentive to go play in LCK. I don't know if it would ever happen, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that he wouldn't get invited to go play on a Korean team and make a shit ton of money. But that ruling hasn't been enforced, and it was super light across the board for something that he did in a much more malicious fashion, I would say. And the bigger concern that I have across all of this is that, like, Riot seemed to come in really, really late on this moderation process and, like, wasn't watching what was going on. The fact that you have so many of these players in this region being toxic for a significant period of time, like, pro player accounts and coaches' accounts should be under more scrutiny, not less scrutiny, than a regular player account. I love Oov's account. Fucking blows my mind. This guy played over 100 games with a 70% report rate, and his account wasn't flagged during that entire time period. And you come back with like a less than 3K ban, and he has a previous disciplinary offense on his record? How does this happen? Like, how do you not, like, have check-ins with players like, oh, we've been watching, you know, like, I've been noticing a startling trend, you know, like, let's correct this behavior immediately, like a week in or something like that, as opposed to letting it go this entire period. So now you have them coming out being super light, and as you said, yes, I think setting a really, really soft precedent where these guys can do whatever the fuck they want, and they don't have to worry about shit. Like, these players are supposed to be setting a good example. And you know what? Good job, America. You had 0 player on the disciplinary list. You guys are upstanding citizens.
I just think
and you know what? I appreciate you. Good job.
Just
Way
kind
to
of fly in the face of
EMA.
Foxdrop's statement that both EU and NA are toxic. Because if you look at it, I mean,
right?
We're
Hey!
It's
I
toxic as fuck.
NA is toxic in a way that isn't going to get you banned.
Yeah.
They're also toxic in a way that doesn't go across, like, speaking different languages. No one understands sarcasm from a language they don't
The
speak.
majority.
Fuck you, kill yourself in any language.
The majority of Vitality got flagged for this. 3 of their players got tagged for it.
Well, so Vitality is just a bunch of... I don't know if Foxdrop has a better story than I do. I just know that everyone hates Vitality in Europe. Like, no one wants to scrim them. Like, the EU teams, like, everyone talks about, like, regions banding together. No one is banding together with Vitality from what I understand. This is just some of the rumor mill shit I heard that, like, no one likes scrimming Vitality because they think they're bad, and then they don't even like their personalities either.
Foxdrop's
This feeds so
not gonna
heavily.
say anything there.
I just one more thing and then I'll stop. Like this, the problem too for Riot from a timing perspective is that this feeds really heavily into their toxicity narrative that's going on. Like you now have the majority of your world class, not the majority, you have a very large chunk of your world class player base showing up as being toxic, leading into the World Championship period where you'd think like they should be most focused and most like not doing this shit. And here they are, being bad actors and bad representatives to the scene.
Yeah.
So someone made an interesting point. I don't know how true it is that like some of the reasons NA people didn't get reported or whatever is because they feel like the NA server has stricter overall like policing of not just pro players but people in general. And some people argue that hurts our competitive pool. Like people like Tarzan get like, you know, permaban and stuff like that. Whereas some people think that might not.
No, just no.
I'm just bringing up.
If only Tyler 1 had been around for the past year.
Yeah, right. Oh,
we wouldn't be talking about Caps. We'd be talking about Tyler 1.
Does anyone remember
I'm
some
just saying
XJ9?
that was a side point. Just the reality that like a lot more people get banned, they feel in NA, and that's also probably why when all the other regions and players had people on this kind of like list, and it was free because we knew not to do that stuff already.
The best players are toxic players, is what you're saying.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying competitive people tend to have a fire in them. That can sometimes
That's such a nice way of putting it. Competitive people have a fire in them, and it just spreads, you know? They want to burn everything down.
These pussy-ass other players.
Oh, boy.
Whoa.
Okay, all right.
Hey, all
right. There's the competitive as I said, Mark.
We just lost like 50% of the potential gendered sponsors we could have, but that's okay. I would say, though, the greatest player in the history of North America, never been a toxic solo queue player, never been involved in one of these scandals. My boy Peter Pang.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's
I
true.
had a question. Do you guys have any insight on if there's anything in like the rule book or anything for like a maximum amount of fines that can be given to players? Because I know like other sports, they have maximum allowable under the CBA for fines and stuff like that.
So we talked to Nick about this, or I talked to Nick about this last night, Nick Allen, and he said that the rulings that they gave out were in accordance with the NA player book, but they were like on the minimum side, not the maximum side. Like they hit the minimum thresholds for the fine penalties, but then it's or like bans or games or other stuff, and they just all hit the minimum.
So it sounds like you're saying Nick Allen believes that these fines were not. It sounds like what I'm hearing from you, Kelby.
Nick is not speaking for the league. He just, said that, he checked the rule book and they were in line, at least. Like they weren't setting some stupid precedent that's like lower than rule. I just think the rule book is way too light. Like you can't have this shit going on. And even like if you're going to have the rules be that light, you need to have policing be to a level where you're not going to have this giant thing come out where so many of your players are doing this for an extended period of time that you had to lay down these weak ass fines on everybody.
Yeah,
I think that's the shocker for me is it just almost seems like what's the point? Like, I don't think it's symbolic in any way. I don't think it reflects well on anyone. Honestly, I don't know how much I should say because I don't want to get myself in trouble. I would like to be able to cast the USCS in the spring split as well.
Yeah.
But I just think in general, it just seemed a little bit okay. Well, that's interesting, and I definitely think there are some kind of like question marks just about the whole situation. But the shocker to me, and I can't wrap my head around this one, is you brought this up, like the coach, who had like a 70% report rate over in like three games. Firstly, impressive, right?
Yes.
How do you do that? That's something
Amazing.
And secondly, like you're the coach. This is what just like it boggles my mind when I see. Like, for me, the coach, more than anything else, or what's important in a coach, isn't necessarily the kind of, like, tangible, like, whatever League of Legends, hocus pocus that you want to provide as a coach. It's like, you're going to be coaching people who are probably still teenagers. Most of your roster is going to be really, really young, and that's something we forget about professional players. They're really young, that they're genuinely, most of them are probably under the age of 20. And more important than anything else, you've got to be a role model. Like, these people don't know how to act. They're still learning how to. That not only are they young, but the type of people who become professional players are people who spend a lot of bloody time not around other people, learning how to be socially adept human beings. These people aren't good at anything social, really. In general, I'm obviously stereotyping a bit here, but you got to spend a lot of time, invest a lot of time into League to get good at League, enough to become a professional player. Mm-hmm. And it's just the reality where these people are. They're immature, and they need guidance. And I'm just like, how can you have a coach that is that much of a dick? Like that is just the complete opposite of what a coach should be in my eyes. And it's like, why? Going back a little bit to Vitality, I haven't heard any of those rumors deep enough into the LCS connections to know who's a knob and who's not really. But it's like with Yamasa Cannon, a lot of what I think his benefit is to the Vitality roster. If you don't know who Yamasa Cannon is, chat, he's the coach of Vitality. Is he fronts a very confident, mature kind of personality, right? Now he's only 22. Like he's not. He acts a lot older than he is, and I think that's the kind of role model that, honestly, for a team like Vitality who has personalities on them, much less so now Gilius is gone, but still got personalities. I think that's important, honestly, to have that kind of role model who's just like, okay, lads, what are you doing? Being monkeys. Let's grow up a little bit,
Do we know why the different ruling was in place for Schernfire versus the other players? Because that seems really weird to me. I don't know if did they address
wasn't it
that?
more racial?
That's what I understood. It was more racial, and it was with regards to play-in teams. I don't know how many of the people on this list were in the play-in stage.
Okay, yeah. So it says it's different because each of these competitors, then like Svenskeren, Rhodes, and Yoda's and Schernfires, because Each of these competitive rulings followed racist or culturally insensitive statements. While we certainly believe griefing teammates and intentionally feeding is inappropriate behavior from a professional player, none of the contact at issue in these levels rose to this level of punishment. Okay, so it's because it's the racial stuff.
Yeah.
So,
on the topic of these punishments being too light, do you think you would have wanted to see like higher fines or like suspensions and stuff like that, Kelby?
I personally would like to see. I don't have greater context into the exact logs and report rates and stuff like that. I certainly think at a minimum the fines need to be much more significant. And for somebody like Uv, who has a previous offense and went through 100 games with a 70% rate, I would be fine with that guy being out of the event. Totally. And I think that depending on the degree to which these players were toxic and the number of games, like Riot has much better visibility into that and can completely justify. I think that game suspensions would definitely be warranted in certain circumstances. It sounded like Uzi could have been there. You cannot put people above their role as actors in the game. I think it's and it needs to be stressed on them. Like, and I know that Riot does this training with players. They did it as early as Season 2 when we first got into, Season 3, when we first got put into LCS, we had media training with Riot, and they impress upon us the importance of being good actors and behaving well in solo queue and acting responsibly on social media. You have to put responsibility on the organizations and players to uphold this, especially at this point in the year. So I think that game suspensions would totally be in line.
Yeah,
but at a minimum, you have to do way more significant fines. Like, these players get paid so much money. You're not doing anything to them.
Yeah,
it's a joke probably.
One of my questions is, what message does this send to people who haven't gotten the warning yet? That, oh, it's okay, I'll pay $1,500 and get a warning if I ever get caught, and then I'll just be okay. Like, as long there's no threat to anybody who hasn't had this happen to them yet. Certainly there's a threat to the people who've been caught, but because they've gotten a warning and now obviously they know that next time is like in trouble. But for people who haven't, like, who go to Worlds for the first time next year and are feeling frustrated in solo queue, they're like, whatever, it's like 2K, it's fine, it's whatever. Like,
yeah.
It just feels a little weird too with like the global nature of League esports and the salaries being so different. Like, it feels like $1,500 to Korean, NA, and maybe even EU and Chinese, players might sound like nothing, but like for maybe an LMS player or like an emerging region player, that's like,
it could be more significant.
Could be nearly like a half-month salary out of there. So like it feels weird. I don't know what you would do about it, but like
you can.
A lot of other sports they do a percentage of salary.
Right.
Yeah.
Hockey as well, they do it's a percentage of their salary.
Yeah, but those are all so like the reason those work is because there's a CBA and everyone's salaries are public. Like, if Uzi has a personal sponsorship and makes $100,000 a year off something like that, like, Riot can't touch that money realistically.
But you could at least make it scaling off of the guaranteed compensation from the league for the cheaper players and that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. All right, we've got a lot to get through. Kyle0808, thank you so much for calling in. Nick Allen says players signed off on the fine schedule. Interesting. Nick, you should come on the show. Join.
I would sign off on that fine schedule too.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, so
sign me up.
They specifically knew what they were at risk because they signed off on it. Kyle0808, thank you so much. Do you have anything you want to shout out or say at the end here?
No, thanks, guys. Keep up the good shows.
Yeah, thank you so much for the support, man. That's very generous of you over the past 2 days. So, and before that, even MSI. So, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Maybe I'm the mystery sponsor.
Yeah, maybe. We don't know. Thank you.
See you guys.
Okay, Nick, do you want to come on? Can we get Nick to say if he's going to come in? That'd be good.
I've messaged him a couple times in Twitch chat, and he just
I don't know. I think he's AFK or he pops in and out of Twitch chat. But Nick Allen, if you're hearing this, if you hear this coming through your speakers, please let us know. Will you come on the show?
Your refrigerator's running or whatever.
What? He says, I'm
Is your
here.
fridge running?
Join Discord, Nick Allen. Is he in Discord?
He says he's in Discord. You need to join a voice channel so I can pull you in.
Yeah.
He's been on this show before. Why is he struggling getting on
I don't
here?
know. He's probably had a couple of glasses of whiskey or something. I don't know. All right. We're almost here. Here, I'll just. Oh, he's in the channel. He's in Pleb Calls too. Bringing him in.
Where is he at? All right, you got him.
Nick Allen.
What's good?
Unmute yourself, Nick Allen.
Hello.
You're just mooing when you join.
Hello.
Yes. Hi.
Hello.
Nick Allen, can you please state your name and title for the show?
My name is Nick Allen, and my title is Mystery Sponsor.
Okay, great.
Oh, Nick is personally funding the show.
We finally
It's
revealed
good.
it.
You guys, you continue to create such incredible content that I had to get involved.
Nick, I did not know that your salary levels would allow you to spend $100,000 per episode, but that is super cool. It is a first of its name sponsorship, so I really.
Well, Mark Z is a tough negotiator. But he came in.
Yeah.
Those Madison Square Garden guys just love me.
Yeah.
He's like, look, if you give me enough money, I'll be super biased towards NA in every way.
Yeah. Didn't take. Yeah, that was easy.
And he's all up his end of the bargain, so I'm excited about that.
Nick,
what can I be helpful with in this situation?
What is your? Are you comfortable sharing your personal opinion about the fines?
The fines?
Yeah, well, like the rulings against the players and stuff.
Yeah, sure. I guess I was surprised by people's surprise because the fine schedule out. Now, with that being said, is the NALCS fine schedule. But as people know, I think like NA and Central are pretty closely affiliated in general.
And when you say Central is the part of Riot that oversees. Like the international
it's like
stuff.
Central. They oversee everything that touches multiple regions. When it's multiple regions, it ends up rolling into the central unit. Yeah. So, like, it's aligned with NA. If you look at the fine schedule, it says $2,000 and or suspension. I think it says 4-game suspension. So there's a very key or in there. So like, I don't think it is all that surprising that this came out. Now I think there's a difference between what's happening now and what happened several years ago. But your time to be upset of that was when the fine schedule was originally released, not. I think it's been like 2 years since that thing was out, right? So I just think like the time has passed for that argument. Though you can hold that opinion, but again, like there's no expectations have been set for the most part.
Well, I mean, you could argue that a lot has changed in the past 2 years, and maybe it's disappointing that the fine schedule is not kept up with it, right? That they haven't updated it.
No, that's a completely separate argument though to be making, and that's a fair one to potentially make, as player salaries have increased dramatically since that time. But I think that would lead into an argument around how fines in generally have a greater impact on the have-nots versus the haves, right? Like top players and top teams can easily afford a 2K fine, and that's like a different point to bring up.
Yeah.
Whereas again, like to Mark's earlier point, emerging regions, smaller teams, newer teams are all gonna be more challenged by like that level of fine. So, but again, these are all separate arguments over the fact that that this thing was too light. So I think it was perfectly aligned with expectations that were set. And I think that's as a league operator, that's like the most important thing to do. And actually, as during my time at Riot, was one of my biggest regrets not setting some expectations and standards earlier.
Nick, you used to be the guy who everyone memed about fines, so in a sense you are perhaps the fine expert. Do you think that, like, okay, you didn't used to have a fine schedule when you were there, and you had to kind of come up with your own perception of this stuff. Do you think that, if the fine schedule didn't exist, would you have approached the rulings against all these players in the same way? Because it does feel like this is lighter than what was the case at Riot in the past.
Yeah, I think the things that we always kept in mind was the biggest thing is precedent, like what is done before. But again, this was without like a schedule and expectations being set, but always looking back as to like what have we done in the past? Is this in line with what we've done? And then the second point to the earlier conversation, is this in line with the state of the ecosystem, both from like a financial perspective or otherwise? So those are like the two things. So I don't, I think if there wasn't a fine schedule, you look back like, hey, the expectations for this or the precedent for this is like people have been banned from competing in leagues, and potentially that's what you do. But again, like you set expectations, you talk with like a bunch of the stakeholders in the ecosystem, the players, the team owners, the league runners, everybody to come up with this thing. And usually people, come around on this is the expectation. This is everyone's bought in.
Yeah. Do you, final question here, unless anybody else has something they want to throw in there, but are you surprised at the lack of suspensions? Because you're saying you're not surprised because this is in line with the fine schedule. There was the option for them to suspend. That did not happen at all. So why are you surprised at all that there's no suspension?
That's a good question. The implications of a suspension are absolutely massive, both from a competitive integrity perspective and a viewership perspective. Like, I'm not sure who wins in a situation in which someone is suspended like that. I guess like integrity, and maybe the losers would be account sellers or whatever. I don't know what happened, but yeah, I think no one really wins. So I'm not surprised heading into Worlds that something like this happened. Or rather didn't happen, because I do think it makes for a better tournament for this person to be in.
Yeah,
I feel like the future of the game and the competitive scene wins, because I'm afraid now that they've set a light precedent, as you've stated, and this is not an effective deterrent. And if we see the same thing happen next year, nobody's at risk of any suspensions. Nobody's at risk of any serious fines unless the fine schedule changes.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for this behavior to change, because if somebody gets suspended next year, they'd say, what the fuck? Last year, you had 12 of these cases. None of them got suspended. And by the logs, or by the information they were willing to release, it seems like a lot of this was really bad, especially in Uzi's case, where it was not only toxicity, but account sharing, and done in a, in a malicious state, where previously, that has received some really, really harsh penalties, and Riot has come down really hard on people. Mm-hmm. So now, next year, what happens?
I think that's a solution when there's a systematic problem versus a one-off case. Like if it went in and Riot was there's actually 30 players who have botted accounts or whatever. This is a problem that is really bad. If that starts to become a systematic problem, I think you start to have to really crack down. And so I think to address the point, if you're Riot, I think what you do is you do this one time. If it becomes really bad, then you make an ultimatum and you say, hey, from here going forward, because this is such a key issue, we're going to be doing permanent suspensions or long-term suspensions. I think that you give people a chance, and then you drop this super deterrent, and that allows you to maintain top players, or just players in the league in general, with good expectations around what the implications are, while also being able to deter this type of behavior going forward. But it's super complex because you don't want to ban out your whole league, or you don't want to ban anyone, honestly, because it's bad for everybody. These people that get 2-year bans, 1-year ban, effectively can ruin their whole career.
I
think it's a bit of you get to have your cake and eat it too, I think.
I think that if I were Riot, setting the precedent with Uzi for a game suspension at least is the best of both worlds, because that team is making it out of groups regardless of whether or not they have Uzi for one game, mm-hmm. and or even multiple games. You say to people, hey, you do this, we will suspend you for games. And we've set a precedent for being able to suspend you for games. Mm-hmm. Whereas now, like this comes off so light to me. Like I
Yeah,
say that I think that 12 is like, I know that it's one time window, but 12 instances speaks to me of a systematic problem. When you have this elongated time period that nobody's getting checked on, nobody's getting checked in on.
Or is this, this is including the behavioral stuff that you're discussing?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the things,
and we should wrap this up too because we got 5 more callers to go. But
okay, so cool. I'll jump off. I'll just say one last thing. I don't disagree with you, Kelby. Like a one game potentially could have been an option to set set precedent, but also satisfy other goals. But I would say that is a very different perspective than like a 2-year ban, which we had seen a few years ago.
Right.
And I think. So anyway, just to address that, it is very, very different perspective on how you should approach these things.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Anyway, I'll jump off. You guys got a bunch of callers. Foxdrop, what's up, dude? Nice to talk with you. Catch you later.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
See you, Nick.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Thanks for coming in, dude.
Okay, cool. Moving on. Thanks to Nick for the last minute. By the way, everyone, it's late. Nick's tired. Give him he came in last minute, so thanks, Nick, for doing that, and everybody be nice to him. All right, moving on to the next caller. I got a couple shout-outs. Boba Cola gifted a sub to Nice Try Ian and Alir. Twisted Truth subbed Fool on a Hill for 3 months. 11 Tate gifted a sub to Foxdrop. Congratulations, Foxdrop, on your sub. It's the best gift somebody can give.
Nice, man.
Think about that going into the holiday season. That's a great thing. Tehezen, Tunked, Tesset, 8080, Penguin Coach Mistley, and Luna Bumblebee Tuna with 9 whole months. Thank you, Luna Bumblebee Tuna. We got our next caller on the show, an Arbiter. An Arbiter, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Mason, Michigan, just south of Lansing.
Mason, Michigan. Very good. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
I want to talk about NA's chances and why 100 Thieves has the best chance for NA to get out of groups.
Oh my fuck! All right, let's go, dude. We're doing this call now.
All right, no. Yes, a few days ago I would have said this is the spiciest topic, but
okay.
Looking into the meta, I'm
keeping an open mind, just so you know.
How it has evolved at Worlds, it's very much a top lane jungle centric meta. Whereas in the NA playoffs, it was very much around the bot lane mid jungle synergy. Sunday is, in my opinion, sorry, it's very late right here.
No, go for it. It's just okay. Don't worry.
Fine. I'm letting.
Kelby's putting a lot of pressure on you. Don't worry. You're good. Just so someday you were saying someday.
Of the top laners NA has at Worlds, someday has the highest chance to pop off and carry.
I'd agree with that.
And it can,
That's fair.
and while not the best jungler NA can have, has an easy win condition with camping for Sunday. I do think Fnatic is a lock for number 1 in that group, and I think people are underplaying the Shy's injury.
Very good. Twitch chat, be nice. Foxdrop, before I let Kelby go crazy on this, you didn't talk too much in the last couple of calls, so why don't we let you? What do you think is an outsider?
I feel like, okay. So for 100 Thieves to get out of that group, either Fnatic or IG have to shit the bed, and relying. I mean, only one of them has to. You only have to finish top 2, right? You don't have to finish top 1. But if Mr. Caller from Michigan here says that Fnatic's a lock for top 1, that means IG is going to fall out, right?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
I think the Shy's recent wrist injury is going to play a lot into his ability to keep up with the other top laners. I think that's a way that Soaz can, at very least, keep that stable enough for Reckless to potentially catch up with what I would call IG's incredibly question mark heavy bot lane. And I do think that Caps can go toe to toe with Rookie, even though I do think Rookie overall is a better mid laner. I think that Broxa is a better jungler.
How do you feel about Ryu going up against Rookie?
I like Ryu's chances against Rookie better than I like Impact's odds against EDG.
Okay, but that's not the question that I'm asking.
Well, he's saying
the
no.
question
But
I'm asking.
He's saying. I mean, it's fair for him to say that, right? Because his argument is 100 T's the best chance, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. No, yeah, all right. That's fine, except that. Oh man, I just like.
I also disagree with that because Ray is mostly on tank duty, which is exactly what Impact wants to play.
Yeah, but Impact has a lot of his stuff about neutralizing the top lane. Especially with how Cloud9 reacted to the meta. While I'm saying the Lissandra pick was a good pick, but I'm not entirely sure that Cloud9 had a good read on the meta, and they're in Group B, so they're completely fucked.
So,
Sorry.
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Impact has built his thing about neutralizing top lane, preventing teams from getting advantage. I don't see it happening against KT. I think KT is a solidly put together team. And while EDG has some question marks, TL's game plan is to win in double lift bucket, and I've not, from what I've seen of Worlds so far in the current meta, I'm not impressed with the condition that ADC is in.
Kaisa has a pretty insane win rate. See if people give that to him.
Is Peter a good Kaisa player?
Not really.
Is it true though? He got the first ever penta on Kaisa. Is it true though that
being sarcastic?
I think you banned Kaisa and I double.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I agree.
Is it
true
that? By the way, sorry. Is it true that World's meta is straying towards the top lane?
It's
Foxdrop?
weird because the two strongest picks in the meta, I would argue, outside maybe Kaisa, are Aatrox and Urgot. And in play-ins, we saw those left up all the fucking time, and that's somewhat of a skill matchup. And so, people have different opinions on which one it's slightly favored for, but either way, it can go either way. And people keep leaving it up, and then the better player absolutely butt blasts the worst player, and it feels like the top lane is deciding a ton of these games. But when you ban those two out, it actually becomes a really standard controlled game. And so, you start worrying about getting your bot lane ahead, and you have a lot of, for the most part, control mages. There are still some assassins in the mid lane. Mid lane pool is pretty open, but it's not like mid lane is 1v9ing like it has in previous seasons. And it feels like if you ban out the carries top, which feels like there's only about 2 that you have to really ban out, then it becomes a bot lane focused meta.
See, here's something that I'll bring up here as well. I'm going to argue with you, Mr. Arbiter here. Okay, I'm gonna be on your side. So it's 2v2 here. Okay, that's fair. So I will say two points I want to make here. Firstly, World's meta always changes and adapts during the course of the tournament. We see that time and time again. I can't remember exactly what year it was in, but there was one year when Janna was just out of nowhere banned. Suddenly she's pick ban. I think it was season 4 maybe. I can't remember. Either way, it happens, right? We see this, and maybe we'll see something come up that is a third player here in that Urgot Aatrox top lane game, right? Maybe there will be something that comes out. Someone decides oh, I know, actually Kled is ridiculously good into one of these guys, or some whatever. I'm changing it, but you know what I mean. Maybe something develops there that then changes the way that it goes. And 100 Thieves someday, and even Team Liquid Impact, those guys are really good. It's specifically Someday here. Okay, I'll focus on Someday as well, because if we're going to say that Shai's injury, his physical injury is a problem, there is one thing I will say though. The Cody Sun saga that happened during the playoffs with 100 Thieves, that's always going to be a question mark here. And let me pose a question to the entirety of this show here, and you guys Twitch chat that are listening. What do you think hurts more? A physical injury, an injured hand, or an injured heart? And my question is, Cody Sun, when he's coming into the group stage.
This might sound like I'm arguing against myself here, but that depends what region you're from. I'd say an NA broken heart. We've seen week 2 NA.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah.
The other question is, can you sub out a broken heart? Because Duke is still on the roster and he's still good.
That's actually something I've been trying to look up. As far as I can tell, 100 100 Thieves substitute isn't stated anywhere. I'm checking League of BD.
It's Rikara, I'm pretty sure. He's in Korea, boot camping for the most part, and I think like one of those track the pro things. I think I saw Rikara had more. I'm probably gonna fuck this up, so I shouldn't just say it. But I thought I saw Rikara was playing more games, or less games of solo queue, or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Which would imply that he's in scrims.
Right, but I think I don't remember if I'm getting this right, so no one put any stock in that. I can forget what I saw.
So it is the 80 carry sub. All right.
Yeah.
So if Cody-san like falls off the deep end, I think you can put in Rikara. He didn't look completely awful in NA playoffs.
That's high praise.
Yeah.
Confident.
In fairness, he went against Doublelift. So I don't know how much weak stock can be put into that. But
big drop off, Doublelift to Reckless.
Yeah. And Jackie Love.
I'm not Jack. I think Jackie Love's 17. It was said earlier. I think nerves will play an issue. Whether it'll play enough of an issue for 100 Thieves to actually get out of groups will obviously be like to be seen. But I still think with Jackie Love having the potential for nerves, with the Shy having his injury, and in my opinion, you having that win condition that you can go through the top lane and play for late game, possibly with Cody-san in the bot lane, 100 Thieves has a better chance of getting out of the groups than TL.
All right, I've let you guys go on for long enough about this. Let's bring this back to reality for just a quick moment, okay? So, like, if we are just going to generally look at this on its simplest terms, it sounds like we are comparing TL's odds against EDG versus 100T's odds against IG, right? I think that across, like, the group, most people would consider IG to be the stronger Chinese team right now than EDG, right? So Tia or 100T has to beat the tougher Chinese team. And then if we're comparing 100T to TL in their most recent performances, there's a fucking ocean between them, okay? Like, the matches that I watched, 100T play in playoffs and in the gauntlet, compared to, or sorry, not in the gauntlet, 100T play on playoffs versus like TL, they are so far apart. Like, TL completely smashed that region, and 100T didn't even like get there to face them. So, I could understand, like, if you're making the argument that the meta, like, you know, the meta is changing, and, you know, like, there's going to be these unique matchups and intricacies that make up this slight disparity where these guys are going to edge ahead. But that's not the case. The case is that 100T is batting from, like, so far behind. They have so much to make up that I don't think that there is the time or, like, skill on the team for them to gulf the ocean that needs to be crossed in order for them to beat the stronger Chinese team to get out of groups. I expect 100T to get smashed. I think 100T could end up last in their group.
I was about to ask, Kelby, now that we know specifically who's in their group, and we've seen G-Rex play in play-ins,
right?
How confident are you in G-Rex versus 100 Thieves?
I mean, oh god, I don't know. We'll see, but I don't think there's any chance that 100T makes it out. And as we discussed on previous shows, and as Foxdrop said earlier, I think it necessitates a Fnatic or IG collapse, which probably is more likely to be Fnatic. And then 100T needs to walk in. And the one thing that 100T has going for them, I will say, is that they are probably in a complete no fucks given state of mind, which is really helpful for Worlds. Like, you go out, you don't have a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations. Their entire previous, like, last Heist episode was like, woe is us, nobody expects us to do good, blah, 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 we don't deserve Worlds. First off, I do think 100T does deserve Worlds. I don't think they're the third best team from the region, but they do deserve to go to Worlds. But they can go out and they can play their game probably without a lot of stress, and maybe get some momentum, catch people off guard. It's best of ones. I don't think it'll happen.
And in terms of G-Rex, I saw the play-ins. I watched every game. The only play-in team I have any kind of confidence in to perform is EDG.
Yeah, I feel the same for the most part.
G-Rex looked good smashing what I would say is a lesser. When you're having a lesser skill matchup, you're either saying a bunch of the what we'd call wild card regions stepped up, or we're saying that these teams were not much better than them.
What do you guys think?
We need to wrap this up, but go for it. Yeah.
Well, this is a larger question.
Just go for it, and we'll give short answers.
Sure. I'm curious to know, what do you think 100T's attitude for boot camping and preparation for this event has been?
By the way,
I think
Chef YRD at Twitch chat says, "Man, this new intro for the heist is super good."
I think that they're a team of veterans with a coach who has been to Worlds, a bunch of players who have been to Worlds. I expect them to have a very professional approach to preparing for Worlds.
So you think they're motivated?
I think if there's an NA coach that could get that team motivated, it would either be Kane or Prawley. And Prawley happens to be the coach of 100T.
I've got a question. Is Prawley an NA coach or an EU coach?
Ooh.
He's an NA coach.
Do you want him?
He's a coach.
Not really, but
Whoa!
I mean, it's more like... I should rephrase. That wasn't the question I was asking. It's more like he got his feet wet in EU, right? So
is Bjergsen an NA talent?
That was nah, mate. I can't.
He did not get his feet wet in Europe. He got his feet wet being a complexity player, playing Annie.
Of course.
In North America.
And Ziggs, I remember fondly, but as a coach.
We didn't think we wanted Prawley, and then he went to freaking EU, and H2K was a thing.
Yeah.
People say sometimes that I look like Prawley, by the way.
I can see that a little bit.
You're far too good looking.
You're a more handsome British Prawley.
Yeah,
no offense to Prawley. Prawley's also a good looking dude. You're a more handsome dude.
I do think 100 Thieves benefits from having extremely low expectations.
Yeah.
Teams probably haven't prepped as much, and I do think, as much as IG is better, I do think their physical injury on the Shy, and because of that, an easier way to possibly deal with rookie and pick ban, and a unproven on an international stage Jackie Love, 100T has a better chance of dealing with IG than at TL. That being said,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm hoping for TL. I'm a double if fanboy, but I don't see it.
The final thing I'll say about the whole coming in as underdogs, like Kelby was kind of alluding to, it can go too far. Where it's nice on stage when people don't respect you and you have nothing to worry about, but the month long of practice leading up to it can fucking destroy you.
Yeah, if you don't respect your own odds.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Hey, thank you.
I'm remembering your name so I can come back to this.
An arbiter.
When groups go the way they go.
An arbiter. I will say this. I thank you for coming on the show because I think you had a unique take, and I think that your argument was a fair one. I don't know. I mean, it's a stretch in a lot of areas, but at least you had something to back it up. Whereas sometimes people call in and they're like, I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well.
No, I really appreciate it. These are the best calls for sure.
Yeah. Thanks. Have a good one. All right, we got 10 minutes and 3 calls, so we're going to have to power through it.
That guy was fucking high. I'm just kidding.
Thank you, Wysoros, Vicious Vegan, Ramasher, Trout, VR, Gavosis, and Mighty Wonka. Hopefully we got an EU call, because I feel like Foxdrop, we're having a hard time keeping them awake. It's closing in on, 6 a.m.?
You got a long time to go until these games start.
Yeah, you can take a nice 3-hour nap.
Yeah, power nap. Yes.
What is it? Fallen Time? Fallen Time is here. Where are you calling from, Fallen Time?
I am calling from Waupaca, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. We got a lot of interesting states coming in. What do you want to talk about, Fallen Time?
I want to talk about how G2 will get out of group stages thanks to Hargeman.
All right, here we go.
Basically because of the Heimerdinger ban.
I love
right.
the back-to-back. We had 100T in the last one. Mark, you timed these well, and then G2 in this one.
Before I let Foxdrop grab this one, Foxdrop, can you help with the pronunciation
Of
Hjarnan or Hjarjanen?
Oh.
Hjarjanen? I'm not sure. It's. I mean, honestly, if you look at his birth certificate, it's probably written Hjarjanen, but I don't think. I think his mother, when he tucks him into bed at night, "Good night, sweet Hjarjanen." It doesn't sound right, you know. So
yeah, I think it's Hjarnan.
Yeah. All right.
It's tough to say for sure.
Wait, did the caller? Did you say Hjarjanen?
I said Hjarjanen.
Oh Jesus! I didn't. That went straight over my head, and I was like, "This must be a Wisconsin word."
I've had like 3 beers at the moment, so I'm all good.
Nice. Let's go.
People should always drink while watching the show.
I feel Hjarjanen's Heimerdinger is definitely an asset for that team. Anytime you get a free ban, that's always something. What's his face? Sven was very public with some comments about how everyone is way underrating Hjarjanen and his capabilities on this team. But for me, what I'm more looking at is, if you're looking at one team's expectations and how they will succeed, you have to look at the competition's expectations and how they will fail. And for me, I think when you've got Flash Wolves and Afrika being those two most likely teams to be the top 2 of that group, right? Flash Wolves last year, 2017, dumpster fire. And to me, I think that team was better than this team, personally. Because they had Carcer, and Carcer is arguably one of the best junglers in the world. So that could happen again. You know, there's a precedent there for that team to collapse and fold on the world stage. Also, on top of that, I think Afrika is the weakest LCK team at Worlds. I think being the weakest Korean team at Worlds doesn't mean you're a weak team. There's probably 5 or 6 teams in the LCK that could come into Worlds and get out of group stage. But for me, I think Afrika is just like, I'm just not I'm not 100% convinced by that. You know, I wrote a few notes down because I knew some random dickhead would come on this show and say G2's going to get out of groups, and I was like, I've got to be prepared for this one. So for me, this is a difficult one to predict, right? Just this group in general, and it's because of Afrika. So if I scroll down to my notes here. Okay, actually, I didn't write anything about Afrika. Fuck that. But I did write something about Fongbu Buffalo.
Nice.
No, you can cut that part of the VOD, right? You don't have to.
We don't make edits.
Travis has no effort for editors.
Yeah. So maybe the mystery sponsor can pay some editors. I don't know. Yeah. Just throwing that one out there. So I reckon 2016. Cast your mind back, okay? I know it's a long time ago, but 2016, Albus Nox Luna. You guys may have heard of this team.
Yeah.
World of Warcraft Legion had just come out. I was spamming the shit out of that game back when WoW was a good video game. And I was watching it at not 6 in the morning because it was a bit more generous timings for me to watch Worlds back then. Albus Nox Luna destroyed in the group stage. They went 4-2 and had to play a tiebreaker with Rockstar.
I know where this is going.
Okay, well, you know more than I do because I don't know what I'm going with this. I just turning past leads. So they beat Rock Tigers in the group stage. They beat them, and Rock Tigers went on to go and play SKT in the finals and lost in the best of 5. So Rocks weren't a crap team by any means. They were a good Korean team, and even coming into the tournament, everyone thought they were a good Korean team. Albus Nox Luna surprised everyone to even get into the group stage. Through the play-ins, I believe. But either way, they got out of the group stage. They beat G2 and CLG, I think, in that group. The point is, wildcard teams, you can't write them off nowadays. I think that they are actually a lot... In best of ones, there's always a chance that, let's say, to wrap onto the point that Mr. Caller's making here, Fongwu Buffalo, they nick a game off of Afrika, could totally happen, or Flash Wolves. And then if G2 like split games with everyone, and then like, if they split games with Flash Wolves or Afrika, and then they beat Fongwu Buffalo, suddenly they're looking like they're the number 2 team, right? So I think that it's a team that you can't necessarily write off. Having said that, now that I have said that, sorry for all the Vietnamese fans out there, I've jinxed your team. They're going to go 0-6, whatever it is in the group stage. But generally speaking, I think if it's going to happen, if a Korean team is going to disappoint people in the world stage, in the group stage, it's the Afrika Freaks.
I love the picture you painted. There's so many similarities to that 2016 Group A, because they were really volatile, Rocks Tigers. Like they played a lot of carry tops. They were kind of trolly, a little crazy. I wouldn't say Afrika is quite as trolly, but they play carry tops. Sometimes that backfires. They were a little erratic in their own region. WoW also just came out with a new expansion. If you remember back then, Albus Nox Luna was saying that they couldn't get scrims, so they were just playing WoW. And so I think where Foxdrop was going was to tell G2 and Fung Fu Buffalo to not actually play League, but to play the new WoW expansion.
Yeah. Just saying, it could work. We were talking about with fines and precedents and how this word precedent it's a very important word. We're hanging on to it very much. And hey, I just want to say there is a precedent for World of Warcraft increasing its chances of winning a Worlds. Just
that's why Cloud9's going to do great.
Yeah. It doesn't look like it's working right now. Maybe it scales with the quality of the expansion.
Hey, Fallen Time, I'm very sad because you wanted to call in and argue how G2 was going to make it out. We didn't talk about G2 at all in this. We just talked about their opponents. But we don't have much time left. We don't have much time left. Do you have an argument you want to make on the way out?
I just want to say, like, I mean, how the Heimerdinger ban's going to be good. I mean, you got to ban Kali, Aatrox, hopefully Kaisa, Urgad. If they don't ban the Heimerdinger, okay, you get the Heimerdinger, and if they crush it, they crush it, and then you crush G2's hopes and decent chunk of Europe's hopes and dreams of getting out. But I think that Harnan will, or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Close enough.
They're 80 carry.
They're 80 carry. I mean, you're drawing a ban. It's a QSS ban. You're just gonna be good no matter what.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
Before I grab the next caller, two things I want to hit on really quickly. I actually think he has a very legitimate point about the Heimer ban. Watching the G2 series versus, oh my god, who'd they play? Infinity. It was tough for them, other teams playing against G2 on red side, to not leave like one of the three. Kali's another power pick that gets through, and I think she is a little easier to contain than some of the top lane ones. But like, the Heimer ban is really annoying because you basically get no red sided bans if you're doing Heimer, Aatrox, Urgot. And so you basically just leave up whatever G2 wants. The other thing is, on the Sven point, I always wonder like how much AD people watch compared to casters, because I always have like an opposite thing where like I often have my earpiece out while planning segments and like talking to the people around me, so I don't know what casters are saying. And so like when people say like we're super flaming Hjarnan, I'm like, are we? Like maybe we are. I actually don't even know.
Yeah.
But I think it's if maybe like one or two bad things are said about them, or say, oh, that was questionable. Yeah, he's been questionable domestically, and with question marks about whatever. You know, you can phrase something like that, and then people are like, bam.
Yeah, well,
Mark said Hjarnan's a piece of shit. Mark said Hjarnan's go kill himself. Mark said Hjarnan competitive bet, whatever. You know, and people just it explodes, it blows up, and then that's what people. So I think Sven is most likely reacting to people's reactions to what they are interpreting from the broadcast, which might not necessarily be, you know, as accurate.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, Hjarnan in some sense is someone that gets over talked about relative to his position in a play-in format, because a lot of times what you know, as the broadcast team we're trying to do is talk about like how could this team lose to teams that are probably worse than them, and a lot of the times that leads to like a spotlight on like the team's, you know, air quotes worst player. I think a lot of people would say Hjarnan is probably the weakest player on G2. Not like he's necessarily bad, but like up against Zeitnot, who's supposed to be the best player from Supermassive, now we see a potential mismatch and and suddenly like it sounds like we're trying to pin the blame on him. But if you actually watch the segments, we said we were way more disappointed in like Yankos and Perks for not carrying or anything like that.
Let's move on to the next caller, because we've got two more to go.
Two more.
A couple shout outs really quickly. Thank you to Mighty Wonka, Chef Boyardee 422, and Event Nexus for 8 months, and Ramashir for the 100 bits. Should be coming in. How are you holding up, Foxdrop? You getting tired?
Good. No, I'm good. I was struggling during the fine segment because I didn't have anything to say,
Yeah.
and that went on for a while.
I mean,
and
that
I
was just
like,
Nick Kelby versus Nick Allen show.
Yeah.
Should have temporarily
It's like-
rebranded.
Is
I
it
feel like
Sports and
it's just
Chill is
so-
back.
King Titan is on the show? King Titan, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia. And thank you for being a Twitch sub. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
I just want to talk about how I don't think Korea has like a free win for Worlds this year. Like how the first guy was talking about how he was reminding everyone that Korea was just going to win. I don't think that's really the case.
How come?
Well, firstly, like I'm looking at the groups, and I don't think Korea is just like gonna stomp all their groups. Like especially Group B, I think Gen.G can lose against RNG like without too much effort. And I think if Cloud9 aren't shit and Jensen isn't kind of trolling, he can actually like do something against that team. And so that brings up a world where Korea doesn't even have a team coming out of Group B. And then Group A and C, I think.
Sorry, I hate to interrupt. I never interrupt callers, but you just insinuated the potential of Cloud9, who almost didn't make it out of play-ins, beating Gen.G and getting second place in their group. Is that?
Yeah, because
okay?
I think...
No, sorry. Continue.
No, I gotta answer that one because
Go for it.
I think literally the only reason why they were at that point was because they were just playing really, really bad, and it's like from what I see from these players,
They were playing bad.
Let him stop, Kelby. Let him finish.
Kelby, you interrupt.
This man just said he doesn't interrupt.
My bad. This is a good one. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, so I said they're playing really bad, and from like what I've seen that these players can do, if they're actually playing on form and if they're playing well, I think they can actually take those games away from Gen.G, which would mean there's a possibility they don't make it out of that group.
Okay.
And then for Group C, like I just really want Team Liquid to win. I mean, they look really strong. KT Roadster is probably that's a tough one to beat, but again, I think for KT Roadster and Afrika Freaks, they're really strong teams, but I think it is possible for the other teams in those groups to take the games off of them. And if it's a possibility for them to lose games, obviously it's a possibility that they don't even get out of groups.
I mean, it's definitely possible. it's technically not impossible.
Can I ask follow-up questions?
Yeah.
So which Korean team do you feel like has the easiest path out? Or the most realistic path?
The easiest. Yeah. I might give it to Afrika Freaks. I think KT Roaster might be... Like, I like KT Roaster over Afrika Freaks, but I think Team Liquid and Edward Gaming are just, like, more of a threat to them.
So do you think that Gen.G has the hardest route out?
Gen.G.
Sorry, Gen.G, sorry.
Honestly, yes, it is hard just because I think RNG, like I said, is a good team that can take the games off them. And I think Cloud9 at their peak, like at their best performance, can do that as well. Whether or not they're actually going to be like that is a whole nother story. But if that happens, then I think Gen.G is looking like they could get third place in that group.
Foxdrop, what are your thoughts on C9 after watching them through play-ins and how they'll stack up versus Vitality to be the team that takes Gen.G?
Right. I was going to say, there are a few things here, and one of them is we ain't even mentioning Vitality. They're in this. Right. If we're entertaining...
Apparently, according to Mark, no one wants to talk about Vitality.
Yeah, I know. What's up with that? But, I mean, I think... You know, Vitality took games off Fnatic, even late on into the season when Fnatic were... like really solidify themselves as like really bloody good team, right? The way they play, they'll demolish you early, and then they'll snowball through that and whatever. Problem with Vitality is if they don't demolish you early, they keep trying to snowball, and it's like, yeah, it just ends up in them losing really bloody hard because they don't have like an off switch, right? But you know, I feel like, there's two takeaways I'm going to take for this conversation here between Mr. Caller and Kelby, the honourable gentleman sitting to my left. I think that, Kelby, the way you say route is funny. You said route, which is, I find that interesting because us English people say route, not route.
All right,
but if you think about it, phonetically, it should be route, shouldn't it? I mean, it's spelt route, but we're
running out of time on this episode, so I don't
okay,
know
sorry. But the more important thing is, Mr. Caller, I 100% agree with you that the Koreans are not guaranteed anything, and they're absolutely Cater Roaster completely could fall to Team Liquid, and Afrika, they're trash, and Genji, it's tough, but that all relies on one thing, and this is something that in the world that you're painting, that I think is actually going to be a really core part of this, and that is the jet lag for these Korean teams. As long as that is really high, I completely agree with you, and I think that will all happen.
Yeah, they really jet lagged on that train to Busan.
Yeah,
I mean, trains can be tough.
It's from one corner of the country to the other. It's like going to LA to New York.
I agree. The jet lag on that train.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'd like to go back to your original point, which I agree with. I think that it's not a given that Korea wins Worlds this year, and this is probably the most vulnerable they've ever seen.
I think the biggest way I differentiate between what the caller's saying and what Kelby's saying is, like, when I think of Korea not winning Worlds, I think it has nothing to do with group stage. I think what happens is, like, RNG gets a best of 5 versus a non-Korean team in quarters, has to beat a Korean team in semis, and then beats a Korean team in finals. They have to win 2 best of 5s versus Korean teams. And that's how Korea doesn't win Worlds, not like they all mysteriously flop out of groups or something.
Well, wouldn't it be sick if no Korean team made it out of groups in Korea?
It would be sick.
That would be crazy.
I'm sure that the home crowds would be so enthused.
Everybody trying to get a ticket for Worlds in person can't right now. They'd get the tickets.
Yeah.
All the Chinese fans would fly over and buy the tickets.
Yeah.
Hey, I know we're running out of time. Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
We're going long for this one, please.
I'll try and keep it really short. So, I'll leave this mostly at Mark because you've talked mostly about RNG and stuff. So everyone thinks RNG like the favourites, the number 1 Korean team coming out. And I've talked a bit about IG and we've touched upon them. But what do we think about IG's chances in a best of 5 against the Koreans?
I think. Sorry, you go, Kelby.
I mean, you know better than I do, certainly.
I was gonna say I have a couple like smaller concerns, like the injury thing, like how well does he stack up? Because Smeb and Keen are really disgusting, and even Cuvee gets like these nasty buffs. So I think all the Korean top laners will largely neutralize like the Shy or D, whoever they use. So like I don't think they have advantage in the top lane. Bot lane, I don't think they really have many advantages. And then Rookie is like their one strong point, who I could see abusing Crown or Kuro potentially, but like I don't think that's enough in a best of 5 to upset these guys.
Well, they took RNG to 5 games in the summer playoffs.
Yeah, but I felt like RNG is a better team fighting team than IG, and I think like that's ultimately something you're going to need in a best of 5. And I think, I mean, like, yeah, they did take them to 5, but I didn't feel like, I don't know how to put it. Like, it just didn't look like something that would work as well against the Korean team. I think Ning could maybe pop off, and that could be like a big snowball factor.
Yeah.
We're good. Hey, thank you so much, King Titan, for calling in. It is a pretty hot take. And my God, will you get a lot of Reddit karma if you clip this and post it if all that shit happens. So thanks so much.
If that happens, I want you to get my PayPal and give to your mysterious sponsor so that they can hook me up.
I'm not sure how that's how sponsorship on the. Thanks,
what
King
happens
Titan.
if you're wrong? What do we get if you're wrong?
Absolutely nothing.
Thanks for coming in, King Titan. Have a good one. He's gone. All right, let's move on to the next caller, the last caller.
I didn't even get to dismantle his argument.
We don't have time for you to dismantle all these arguments, Kelby.
Well, like, he came in and he said the freaking Korean teams might not even make it out of groups. The Cloud9 is going to beat these guys. The team that, like, we were watching this game, Travis, and we were like, "Holy shit! Is this actually going to happen? Are
Real
they not going to make it through plans?"
Real Prism Sword.
Oh, you got it right.
I'll just say that the takes are getting more and more delusional as the night runs on.
Okay, well, we're gonna end with this one. Real Prism Sword. What do you want to talk, or where are you calling from?
I'm calling from New York City.
New York City. Very good. What completely reasonable, wonderful take do you have for us to have a reasonable, good-natured conversation about?
My super nuclear hot take of the night, and I'm ready for the wall of lulls in chat and that one sneaky lull, is that every NA team makes it out of groups, and the sole EU team that makes it out of groups is going to be G2, surprisingly.
Okay, but do you actually believe this, or are you just doing it
Foxdrop
for
just
the
slowly dropping down.
It sounds like I'm just doing anything, but I think the main point that I want to bring out of this, instead of just saying any words, is that people forget the amount of wins you need to get out of groups. And all the pressures
Sounds
on...
like you've forgotten the amount of wins you need to get out of
let him go.
Yeah, we'll bring it down first. Because it sounds like I'm just saying words and blah, blah, blah. But besides that, so to go on the European part first, where the G2 makes it out, all the pressure is on Fnatic, and every single year that G2's been at Worlds, they've had the most expectations, and they've never got out of groups. Like, the first time they showed, they went, 1-5, and then they got clowned out. Then, the most recent year, they went, I think, 3-3 it was, and it was like the sad story, oh, G2 doesn't make it out. But I feel like since everyone sees G2's performance and they're like, wow, look at them in play-in stage, there's 0 chance they'll make it out of groups. I think this is probably their strongest chance, but no one cares about them.
Okay.
But why? You didn't say why, you just said I feel with nothing behind it.
Well, strategic-wise, instead of just talking about feeling and storylines, strategic-wise, G2 does have the Heimerdinger ban, strategy where teams are kind of forced to go against it. They don't have strategies prepared against it. And I feel like that's probably G2's strongest chance.
Okay.
The Heimerdinger ban will get them out.
NA picks.
Yeah,
well,
okay,
I think what's amazing is the only reason G2 gets out of their group is because there's no NA team in their group. I think that's the real takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah, holy shit.
Yeah, NA secret sleeper region. But anyways, on to the NA takes. And we'll start off with Team Liquid, since that's kind of like the poster boy child of NA right now. Sure. And they are by far the strongest NA team, even though I'm Cloud9 fan myself.
Go for it.
Yeah.
KT is going to take first, without a doubt, in their group. And I feel like, regardless of how well Liquid does against KT, the real takeaways they have to take from this group would be beating EDG and MAD. And EDG, conversely, was the strongest play-in groups, or play-in team, compared to Cloud9, who almost got knocked out, compared to G2, who lost the game going into the groups. And I feel like Liquid, even though NA historically has been a wishy-washy region, sometimes Cloud9 is the sole hope, and then they just get knocked out.
Yeah, we don't need the historical context. Get through it.
Yeah.
Right. But Team Liquid proved themselves, originally in NA, that no NA team has, standard play even close to them. They are the set play team of NA, so to say. So I feel like, even though they have the hardest Korean team, in my opinion, in KT Rollsters, I feel like the two teams they have to beat to secure second seed is against EDG and MAD. I feel like they can most likely get wins against them.
Okay. Now, how do you think that both 100T and Cloud9 are going to make it out of their groups?
100 Thieves and Cloud9 are probably going to be the least convincing NA team. Because people do forget you could get through groups with only 3 wins. And then you'd have to go through tiebreakers and whatnot. I'm not saying 100 Thieves is going to go 0-3 in the first rotation of play, and then they'll make the miraculous 4-win run to get to groups. But I feel like they'll probably get one wishy-washy win against G-Rex of all people, and then week 2 they'll step it up, and then seed 1 from Group D will be Invictus, and then in a dramatic tiebreaker fashion against Fnatic, they'll get the win they need to force a tiebreaker, and then in the tiebreaker they'll just barely scrape by. They'll probably be the weakest team in quarterfinals going into it.
So you're back on the feel thing. You feel this way, but why do you feel this way?
Most people with every single caller that's talking in tonight about 100 Thieves, there's just the zero faith and zero pressure. Like they have the
they watch their games.
Yeah, no pressure in their games, and Cody's son has lost a group for himself. Remember when he handed Fnatic that win last season when he Tristana ulted them in? I feel like he obviously he wants to get that redemption story. He wants to work hard with Hapermove to turn the tide of NA LoL, and they'll probably just scrape by with the 3 wins and then force a tiebreaker.
Because Cody's son wants to rewrite his narrative, it's going to carry 100T through their group with some wishy-washy wins? Okay, cool. Now how about Cloud9? What is the Cloud9 narrative? What is the internal struggle that's going to push them past the opponents in their group?
Coach Reaper's belt is pretty strong, and I feel like...
Not as strong as I Love Oov's belt, by the way.
That guy is savage.
Yeah.
Jokes aside, though, like Cloud9's been able to scrape by in groups just by, like, oh hey, like we managed to beat SKT, and this is coming from a Cloud9 fan too. So it sucks that this is probably Cloud9's weakest showing at Worlds so far, and even though this is their weakest showings, I do feel the feeling word. Play-ins did allow the rookies to get practice for their games, and it sounds like, oh wow, they strategically played 5 games to the last minute to be able to get as much stage nerves defeated for their rookies. But they have to realistically have Sneaky versus Uzi, which sounds like a ho-ho, Sneaky and lane kind of thing. Because Gen.G will most likely be the Titan story of Group B. Like, historically speaking, like Samsung / Gen.G was like the Korean group stage. Like, they are the weakest Korean group. But I feel like, there we go.
Why do you can say feel, but you have to say why you feel that way.
Well, just based on history, Gen.G has been, like, the least consistent Korean team in groups. Like, I'm not saying this is like, oh, they just barely scraped by in groups. Like, they obviously, like, stomped groups each time, like, when they were Samsung, and then they lost to TSM, I think it was, like, a year or 2 ago. But then, like, they just turned it back up. They're like, oh, yeah, we're Korean, let's just win. And then they just brought it back. Like, I'm not saying, like, they're gonna, like, falter in groups, like, oh, wow, Gen.G got last and Vitality got ahead. But, I mean, in terms of, they'll just play standard play, they'll, like flop once and then just remember they're Korean for the rest of their games. And then Cloud9 has to focus all their games into RNG.
So who's making it out of that group? Sorry, I want to know who make it out of this group.
Gen.G, Cloud9 for Group B. Actually, might pick them. Wait.
So RNG's
don't make it out of groups, bro. You're dizzy. Okay, this needs to stop. This needs to end. Okay, one thing I'll say to you, mate, you should not be on this call. You should be out writing your anime, alright? That's the first thing I'll say. Second thing, the sun is rising outside my window. It's too late for this shit. I don't know what you're on, but nothing that you said right here has any semblance of cohesion that I am willing to accept in any form of our own possibilities. And trust me, I have an active imagination. All right, I'm down for lots of things, but this is too much, friend. Okay, seek help. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I'm from the least bright part of New York. I'm actually from Staten Island, so I kind of explain some of that nuclear takes. But anyway,
nobody's saying you're dumb, man. I'm just
joking, mate. It's fine.
Maybe you have way too much faith. Yeah, you've been eating, way too much. A beautiful American apple pie, and it's like affecting. You got a little bias going on here, and I think like I don't know. You have a lot of feelings, but it doesn't sound like really if the results came out differently that you would be that surprised, because like you're not. It doesn't seem like you're feeling a lot or seeing a lot of trends, strategic reason. Like a recent performance that would indicate that results would go differently than how everybody's expecting, even though you feel that it'll go very different how expecting.
That's a fair call out, but I do think like out of all the takes like that were just I just said. Like, I feel like G2 probably is most improved. Like, at first in my pickups, I didn't even have G2 making it out. But I do think blah blah blah.
Yeah, Foxdrop. Now that we've concluded, do you regret coming on the show on a scale of 1 to 10?
No, I've thoroughly enjoyed coming on this show, and I was gonna say, if you want me to come on again, I'm more than happy to come again. I've loved it. It's good shit.
Okay.
Travis is having
technical
minor
difficulties.
issues.
I'll handle this. Real Prism, thank you so much for the call and ending the night
problem.
on a spicy hot take.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay?
And
everyone.
again,
Or good morning,
if you're
wherever
right,
you've been.
this is the ultimate karma farm.
Oh yeah, I have that Twitch clip ready, and I'll post it on Reddit.
Can you guys hear me?
Wherever you guys are in the world.
Hello?
Great.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay,
Travis.
cool.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, thank you so much for calling in. Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, I kicked him.
I think he was already.
I did the wrap up. Travis didn't need to.
No, you did. I mean, he doesn't really feel that. I mean, he really feels that way, but he's not logically invested in those predictions.
Well, hopefully not financially invested either. Twitch chat, don't go anywhere because I'm going to hang out and stream afterwards, and I've got a giveaway for you guys. Let's do the wrap up though. Mark, you got any shout outs, plugs, anything you want to say here?
Nope. I'll be watching Worlds live. I'll probably go into the LCS studio to shoot the shit with the other people and kick around any ideas I have with them.
Kelby?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, totally forgot. We just put out a soccer video for Offline TV, and you can watch me be the lankiest white motherfucker ever.
Kelby?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for having me on, Foxdrop. I really enjoyed being on the show with you. I had never been exposed to your personality or content before, but I think I'll check it out now because I really like your style. And speaking of things, I'll check you out. Some people that you might be interested in checking out. Little EDM group you may have heard of called the Chainsmokers. Now, if you go and you check the recent songs, they're more making pop music. It's not really my style, but everything that they were doing from like early 2014 through mid 2016 is just absolute fire. They have so much good stuff. Everything that they made in that era like defined Big Room for me. I think you should really check them out. Also, they put out a song with Chris Martin, who's lead singer Coldplay, beloved by many Brits, I would assume. Not saying that you automatically have to love them, but yeah, you should check them out.
No, I've heard of the Chainsmokers. They are.
And what are your thoughts, Foxdrop?
I mean, they're cool, I guess. They're alright. I mean, yeah, a great band. Yeah, Chainsmokers. I like them.
All right. Well, Kelby disconnected from the Skype call. Kelby, please come back. I need you to fix the overlay. Thank you. Foxdrop, any shout outs, plug-in, whatever? Oh, I lost everybody. How'd that happen?
We're all gone.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm back.
Yeah.
Oh, we're all back. Oh, fantastic. No, what I said before, I enjoyed talking loads of rubbish here. I think that's what I said to Quickshot. In fact, the very first thing I said in my very first LCS broadcast was, you know why I'm here? I'm here to have fun and chat shit. And that's my motto for life, baby. And here I am having fun and chatting shit. And I'm not lying, by the way. You can look it up. That is the first thing I said. So, thank you so much for having me. If you ever want me to come back, you know where I'm at.
Cool. Well, thank you. It was super fun having you on. And I think you had a pretty unique take. And when we don't get often here, which is a European take, we don't really talk to most of you people, but that's okay. Anyway, thanks so much for coming on. Best of luck to your teams at Worlds as group stage kicks off in just a little bit. I'm gonna hang out on stream for a little bit before I head over to Worlds myself. Thanks to Mark and Kelby as well. This has been Hotline League, episode 48.